All right, good evening and welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas Council meeting for Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Welcome to Chamber Councils. Welcome the team, council team, staff, guests, media, everyone watching online. We'll call the meeting to order. I have a motion. Let it resolve that the June 23rd council meeting of the Municipality of South Dundas now be opened at 6 p.m. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Confirmation of agenda, item number 2, any additions, deletions, or amendments to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion, let it resolve the Municipality of South Dundas approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Ward, all in favor? Carried. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Councillor Vino.
Yeah, through your mayor, I'd like to disclose pecuniary interest on item 6C, the plaza follow-up for Iroquois and Northwood.
Very good. I will also disclose pecuniary interest on 6C, Iroquois Plaza and Morrisburg Shopping Center. Councillor Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. I need to declare pecuniary interest on 7A, the joint water venture.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any others? Okay. Adoption of minutes, number 4. Any errors or omissions of the regular council meetings minutes from June 11th? Seeing none, I have a motion to resolve that we approve the minutes as adopted. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, very good. We'll move to delegations on this hot night, and I've chosen not to wear a suit jacket tonight. I hope folks don't mind. But we do have 2 delegations tonight, and our first delegation, well, I'd like to introduce and welcome herself and her family, our very own scientific champion, Maeve Wendell from Seaway District International Intermediate School, High School. Just a few months ago, Maeve earned her place in the 2025 Canada-wide Science Fair in Fredericton on her project's Sustainability Sorbents, a novel approach to CO2. So we're going to have Maeve come forward, and she's going to give a presentation. Maeve stood among the most promising Canadians, a young scientist from coast to coast. She experienced firsthand what it meant to be part of the Canada's scientific community. So we're going to welcome here today, and please join me in welcoming our ambassador, our scientific ambassador, Maeve. Welcome, Maeve.
Thank you very much for having me here today. Is this good? Okay. My name is Maeve Wendell. I go to Seaway District High School, and this year I got the amazing opportunity to go to the Canada-wide Science Fair in Fredericton. So I'm just going to talk a bit about that. So this year actually wasn't my first time going to the Canada-wide Science Fair. I went last year as well for my project on ocean acidification. My project this year was titled Sustainable Sorbents, a Novel Approach to CO2 Sequestration. So I developed a sustainable sorbent, which is kind of like a very porous sponge that can directly capture carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So it was very heavy in organic chemistry. I learned a lot for this project, but it was very fun. I love science. I learn it whenever I can. I think it's a great way to develop solutions to big world problems. So one problem I'm passionate about and frankly quite worried about is climate change. So all my projects that I have done and will continue to do are based on environmental and climate change issues. So I presented my project at the Regional United County Science Fair in April. This won me a total of 8 awards, including Top Project in Fair and then a trip to the Canada-wide Science Fair. Just to elaborate a bit on what CWSF is, it brings together the top young scientific minds in Canada. So this is the top 2% of all projects that are done in Canada every year. I love doing this because I get to meet kids that kind of share the same interests as me and are possibly my future coworkers. So it's very fun. So I left on May 31st. I flew first to Toronto, then to Fredericton. The fair was held at the University of New Brunswick. So it's a very beautiful campus. The first day was just arrivals and getting settled in our rooms and things like that. And then we had the next day our orientation and project setup. So orientation was just telling us what we'd be doing this week, some of the rules, what judging would be like, and then project setup, we set up our posters in the correct positions. So each finalist had to design their own posters that they'd be presenting in judging and public viewing. So you can see on the slide there, that's my, those are my posters, the project I presented. Very green. I wanted to get along the sustainability message there. The next 2 days were judging. So these were quite elaborate processes. The first day of judging was excellence judging. So this lasted from 8 in the morning to 5:30 in the afternoon. Each project had a total of 5 judges. I talked for about 15 minutes, so a 15-minute presentation about my project. The judges were specifically tailored to what your project was about. So for example, I had some chemical engineers. Although it may seem kind of stressful, it was a great opportunity to actually talk to real scientists that are working in the fields that you want. I get to learn a bit about that field I want to go into. Specifically, I, for a long time, have been wanting to be an environmental chemical engineer. It's a field I'm really interested in. Also, the judges are just interested in your project, and they have to go through their own elaborate process to be able to judge you. So they're excited to be there. We're excited to talk to them. It's just a good time overall. And then the next day was the special award judges. So these different organizations and companies in Canada actually sponsor a lot of awards that hand out a lot of money and scholarships. So they send their own judges that have specific questions. These presentations are less long. They're about 10 minutes. So I had 3 special award judges for the Intact Climate Award and then a Renewable Energy Award that was sponsored. So that was also a great opportunity. They were just interested in what we had developed. The next day was a bit of a break from all the science chaos, although it was very fun. It's good to give your brain a break. So my tour group toured St. John in Fredericton. So this was really fun. I got to see the Reversing Falls. St. John is the oldest city in Canada, so I got to see the oldest high school and the oldest bank as well. I met so many people, even civilians on this day. They just came up to us and asked us who we were and why there were so many science kids walking around St. John. So I also got to explain my project to them. I did some shopping, visited some restaurants, got to see a lot of beautiful sights. It was just a great break in the whole week. Still very fun. I sort of combined the rest of the fair onto this one slide because so much more happened. For example, at the very end of the week, we had this dance with everybody. It was a great way to end things off because we got to say goodbye to each other, for one thing. So that was a lot of fun. And then there was open field nights, there was barbecues, there were some lab experiences. You can see me at the top of the slide there. I did a carbon capture lab, and then I also got to visit a geological museum and kind of explore different dinosaur fossils and minerals. So that's another great thing about the fair. Sometimes they rent out entire museums just for us. So for example, last year they rented out the Museum of Nature in Ottawa just for the science kids. So that was a great opportunity. They had one night, which was just bouncy castles and cotton candy and snow cones and all fun things, face painting and acrobats. So that was awesome. Overall, it's just such a fun week. It's very busy, but overall, you learn a lot, learn more about the scientific method, learn about other kids' projects, how they got their ideas, and how we can improve next year. I've already started planning my project for next year and hope to go back to the Canada Science Fair, which will be held in Edmonton next year, so that's a hope. I would like to thank a few people. First off, the United County Science Fair, for letting me go again, and hopefully next year. Also, the River Institute. I did all my science experiments there, and they also offered some great resources. My friends and family for support, specifically my Labradoodle, which was really helpful throughout the science process. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you very much for sharing your time, and I'm sure the few hours of fun was not a correlation to how much hard work and effort you've put into getting there, so I was glad to hear. Any comments from the council team? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, sure. Wow, what amazing trip you've had, and all the accomplishments you've achieved so far in your young life. When I think back about science class and whatnot, it was a little bit of a different perspective from what you've accomplished. The only question I have is, I think it's great that your passion is climate change. Maybe you can get a sponge that can absorb all this heat that we're getting, which would be really nice. But no, congratulations. You have a very bright future ahead of you. You can tell, and I'm not sure if science is the only thing, but well-spoken in a council position at some point in time would be probably up your alley as well. But congratulations.
Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So congratulations, Maeve. What an awesome achievement. I can only imagine how much work you put into this. I did look at your posters, so way above even my knowledge. So that's awesome. Good for you. How old are you, Maeve?
I'm still 14 right
14.
now.
Good for you. I'm really hoping to see you there again next year, but yeah, awesome work. And hopefully we can actually use what you're working on. I'm sure maybe the River Institute could maybe use a brain like yours to help us clean up our river one day. And again, climate change is something even the township faces every single day. So really looking forward to working with you on what comes next. And also just to say kudos to mom and dad. 2 brilliant girls, and wow, good job, guys. So yeah, congratulations, Maeve. Enjoy your splendor, your rewards, and we'll see you again next year.
Very good. Yeah, Councilor Smith.
Yeah, I just had to echo what the deputy mayor was saying. Halfway through that presentation, I was thinking, I don't know exactly how old she is, but if she's 18 by next October, she could be sitting up here. So you're gonna have to wait until 2030. 2030, yeah.
Very good. We wanted to welcome you here tonight to honor your achievements. So please come forward. We have a certificate to honor you, and congratulations for all the residents of South Dundas. So congratulations. Okay, thank you very much for that. So we'll move on to their next agenda item, 5B, Recreation Month, and the SDNG Mayor's Cornhole Challenge. So after last Saturday's event back in North Dundas, I came back and asked CEO Dahan, hey, do you think the rec department put a few slides together with Recreation Month? Because maybe we have a nice presentation we can make at the end of the presentation. So, Director of Parks, Recreation and Facilities, Director Jansen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I was asked to put together this little presentation here. So as many of you guys know, June is Parks Recreation Month. It was started by PROS, the Parks and Recreation Association of Ontario, obviously highlighting parks throughout the province. So a little bit of it is just highlighting the importance of parks and recreation to the individual individual as well as the community well-being, and just emphasizing how important Parks and Recreation is to fostering a healthy and active community. So just wanted to make sure that, that is the goal of Parks and Recreation, and just sort of some of the values of, some of the values of pros, but also some of the values that we bring down here into South Dundas. So I did put together a couple slides here, just highlight a little bit of the stuff that we have here in South Dundas for Parks and Recreation Month. I think it's no secret to anybody here in this room, but we do have an extensive number of parks throughout South Dundas, and you look through this list, I believe there's 26. I should know that number off the top of my head. Anywhere from little small parks out in, whether you're on Orchard Way or the big parks that you see at the Morrisburg and Iroquois waterfront, or as you go all the way up to Winchester Springs and our north edges there, we have some parks out there as well. So just highlighting some of the parks that we have there and what they do for the community. And then moving along into some of the other parts of recreation that we have here, all of our rentable spaces, our recreation facilities that we have, some of our community programs that we run. I know I'll take some criticism here. I didn't know exactly how well the Adopt a Flower Bed program was going to be doing, but a special thank you to all those volunteers. That program's been filling up every single year. I think we only have 1 or 2 flower beds left in the municipality that aren't already adopted by volunteers. The Tree and Bench program, we offer some recreation training. We bring somebody in for all the special user groups to help them with their training. So I know a couple years ago we did an autism training, and we look at that type of stuff as well. So moving along. And then we get into a little bit more of the rec programming that we offer here in South Dundas. So just last year, we had about 2,500 registrants in just our programs alone. And obviously, that doesn't even include some of the rec programs that are run by volunteers. So whether it's, South Dundas Soccer has almost 500 people in it this year. The Seaway Surge and Rally Cap are starting to get, obviously serve a bigger area, but I believe the number's over 1,000 again this year in Rally Cap. And then you get some smaller programs. The Warriors softball's grown this year. The Iroquois lawn bowling is holding strong. And those are all great volunteer-run recreation programs. And we do our best to support them as much as we can as well. And then obviously I included in there, we do have a museum that we run in our community. So the Carmen House Museum will be opening again in about 2 weeks, just after Canada Day. So we're excited to have, that open and just a different type of recreation, and just emphasizing, that it's not just sport, but it's also, that arts and culture, and that's what makes the community strong. But really what it comes down to in our department is making sure that we have the quality of life. I think I have a note here from the boat christening that I know many of us were at yesterday. I'll quote Mr. Ross here that, this is what gives the community its soul, and this is the heart of it right here. Is you see all the volunteer groups, you see all the events that happen on the weekend. That's what gives this community its soul. I'll admit, my staff, it's not, David, when is the next event? They come into my office, David, what is the event this weekend? How many events are happening this weekend? It's not, is there an event? It's how many are happening, and it's just a great thing to see in our community. And this is just highlighting, this is probably just scratching the surface of all the events and everything that happens in our community. And then the final slide that I put together here was just a little highlight to the team. Obviously, 26 parks, and I think it's over 52 individual buildings, all those events, all those volunteers. And we're a small but mighty team here in the Parks and Rec world. So there's 3 of us on the administrative side. I have 2 lead hands. And then the guys out in the field that, I'll admit on a day like today, most of them started at 4 in the morning to beat the heat this morning and get everything cleaned up from the weekend. So Jerry, Kent, Krusty, Tyler, Rachel, and then Jamie working the night shift here as well. So it's almost a 24-hour operation we're here. And then I couldn't list all the students, but obviously there's a great deal of students that come throughout the department. And that's just a little highlight of, a little bit of the Parks and Recreation Department here at South Dundas and all the volunteers that help around it as well.
Well, it's fantastic. Thank you, Director Jansen. I just between Saturday and Sunday, I was in Williamsburg, a law ball tournament going on. Riverside was busy. I know Brinston Park, when I was up that way, was busy. I was down to Iroquois at the beach and the marina. Yesterday, we're busy. Saturday in Morrisburg, ball games on all the times going on. Soccer Saturday I was at for a few minutes. So yeah, all the parks and recs, of course, the beaches, we're definitely busy. So appreciate everything that's going on in rec as we celebrate Recreation Month. Any questions for Director Jansen before you want to go ahead, Deputy?
Yeah, sorry. I just, through you, Mayor Broad, you kind of talked about a little bit as I was leaving and just bear with me for 30 seconds because there will be a point to this. But as I was leaving, I was watching the CTV news tonight, and lo and behold, who was on that was David Ross, obviously from Ross Video. Ottawa has been showcasing some of the local businesses in the Ottawa area, and he mentioned obviously Iroquois and how Ross originated from there. So coming back to yesterday, and you kind of alluded a little bit as they were renaming the vessel to the John Ross vessel. Mr. Ross mentioned a couple things as when he resonated in Iroquois, you know, one of the reasons why he came was because of the airport. But as he said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, well, lo and behold, what else did we have? We had a golf course, we had a campsite, we had a marina, and we had parks. And, you know, 250 employees of Iroquois, it's this stuff here that makes people come, you know, and stay here. So I just want to point that out. David, I think you've done, and your predecessors as well, has done a great job, but you've done a real fabulous job with you and your crew of growing our rec and parks department to me, the highest degree, and to a level that's probably second to none to a lot of municipalities. So just congratulations on that.
Cool. Well, on that note, we to celebrate Recreation Month, North Dundas is hosting an annual Recreation Day, and it's a mayor's challenge. And last year was the golf disc throw, and Rebecca from the leader was there, and she knows how poorly I played. But so this year I upped my game and won the cornhole challenge. And we decided this year for the mayor's all the chip in and the warden chip in $100, and the winner got to choose his charity. And lo and behold, Jane Schoons was there from the Community Food Bank, which is right down the street from us. So I've decided to donate $700 to the community food share. So here's a certificate, Jane, and my check for $700. Come on forward. The 6 mayors and the warden all contribute. Yes, I did. Deputy?
Well, yeah, and thank you. I think and congratulations are in order. That's a great accomplishment. And, well, I'd like to present a certificate of congratulations. First place proudly presented to Mayor Broad, 2025 SD&G Counties Mayor Cornhole Challenge.
Thank you very much. And when I get to my,
Can you make that face again, right?
when I get to my SD&G update, I'll mention how I was rubbing it in Monday at the county's meeting, so I was happy to do that. Anyways, moving on. So thank you. Thanks for the delegations, and I think we may be celebrating some other youth accomplishments in our future meetings, so stay tuned for a few others we're going to have come forward. So that's great. Okay, 6A, Committee of the Whole. So I have a motion, let it resolve that Council of the Corporation Municipality South Dundas hereby resolve into a Committee of the Whole for purpose of discussing matters, less formal deliberation at 6:22 p.m. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so we're up to 6A, development charges, options for consideration. Stephanie Moore, Ms. Moore, welcome.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. All right, so today we're going to be discussing development charges, something we've talked a lot about in the last few months, specifically. So this presentation is just going to go over the options for consideration and the things that I'm looking for Council to give staff some direction on. I can do it. Perfect. All right, so Watson and Associates were retained to prepare development charges study and draft bylaw for council's consideration under the Development Charges Act. At the end of the day, the aim is of implementing development charges is to recover capital costs from residential and non-residential growth. So these costs are, what are development charges? So fees to cover growth-related capital infrastructure. These are costs that are in addition to the infrastructure costs normally associated with the construction of a subdivision. They go to things like fire, roads, recreation, and they're imposed under the authority of the Development Charges Act. So in terms of the scope of the study, what the study entails is forecasting growth, so the amount, the type, and location, and it establishes rules for applying our development charges. The scope of the study also includes legislative context and recommendations and the basis for the recommendations. So through the study that you have attached to your agenda package, breaks down the service needs for 2025 to 2035, and they're broken down by fire protection services at 30%, services related to a highway at 8%, parks and recreation at 59%, and growth-related studies at 3%. One of the most important parts of development charges and planning matters altogether is engagement and consultation. So we've had multiple meetings with Watson and Associates. They collected our data and analyzed it. We released the study publicly on May 2nd, and then we held a stakeholder meeting on May 20th, where we invited local business stakeholder or local developers and members of the building community to voice their comments, hear a little bit more about the study, and then we held the statutory public meeting later that evening on May 20th. So some of the public and stakeholder feedback that we received were that they generally understood the rationale behind development charges. They did have a few concerns, specifically the financial impact on developers and homeowners, and the potential to discourage growth. They did offer some helpful suggestions to help council with their upcoming discussions. They thought that there's opportunity to reduce the development charge, that maybe phased-in fees could help, and they encouraged us to stay competitive with neighboring municipalities. So you have this in front of you, but this is the proposed development charge based on different classes of residential development as well as non-residential development, and then it's broken down by the municipal service or this class of service. So what you're seeing is for a single detached dwelling or a semi-detached dwelling unit, the proposed based on the service classes would be $10,523. Other multiple units are $8,656. Apartments that are 2 bedrooms plus per unit, $7,249. And then apartments, both bachelor and 1 bedroom, at $5,243. And then the non-residential per square foot value is $1.92. In terms of the flexibility, if approved, council can revisit and amend the development charges within a 10-year period. Adjustments can be allowed as the market changes, and changes cannot exceed the maximum allowable amounts identified in the study. So those numbers that I just went over, you don't have the authorization to implement charges that are greater than those numbers. So this is where we kind of get into the items that staff are looking for direction on. So we'll get into these one by one, but specifically, number 1, rate options. So going with a full fee versus a reduced fee or no fee. Number 2, implementation options. So we'll look at things like phasing in and indexing based on that public feedback. 3, development charges. So there are statutory exclusions as well as items that you can consider for exclusion. and then the timing of implementation when you want to implement these changes, if you so desire. All right, so the first item that staff would like council to discuss and provide direction on is that full fee versus a reduced fee. So it's as you deem appropriate, and I provided a little bit of context on the costs versus reduced rates in the tables. So you have these as well in the report, as well as on your screen. And what I've done is I've put together two tables, one table that identifies 100% of the rate, 75% of the rate, and 50% of the study rate. And then going left to right, you'll see per residential type on that top, the top table. And then on the bottom table, I've looked at the per square foot value for both a 5,000 square foot commercial or industrial development or a 200,000 square foot industrial or commercial development, just to give you a little context to something that that might come to our community. So in terms of direction,
Yeah, I think you kind of said we'd stop at point one and maybe take some direction or have conversation around it and where we want to go from here. And it's an opportunity maybe for all of us to kind of start to describe maybe what their thoughts are and feelings are, and then that'll drive maybe the next piece of the conversation. Many things keep me up at night, any comment I receive, and you know, there's been a lot of easy decisions to make, tough decisions, and this one is really tough for me, I really appreciate, though, councillors, you know, that bring forward some motion and ideas, and we go and do some work and understand and bring them to the table and discuss them, right? Which creates a whole lot of conversation, because we didn't have to even entertain this at all, right? We could have just not talked about development charges. But I thought the council team, you know, had somewhat of an appetite. Hey, we should look at this and understand it and do the study. And I think a study was done many years ago, perhaps. So, you know, it was a time maybe for us to look at all the challenges of development charges. I'm really torn on what step, what it would be. I've received lots of feedback, you know, lots of things in the community we do or we talk about or we pass, and it's in passing. But this one, lots of people have talked to me about this one, and including at the trade show. Pretty much anybody kind of stopped by the booth, wanted to talk about this, and some had opinions and some were just wanted to understand. So it's quite interesting on how we, you know, minimal growth over many years, right? If you look at the census reports, which I do, from all the different years on, you know, how slow our population grew or didn't grow. And obviously opportunity has arisen in the last few years, you know, with some of the previous work council was done, you know, with setting up with water and wastewater. And then obviously with the folks coming and wanting, you know, as I had said, it's yes, let's figure out how. So we figured out a lot of hows. Right, we have a lot of subdivisions, developments, you know, in process or thinking about. Obviously, in commercial space, you know, we've just built 200,000 square foot commercial space, so you know they want to do more of them. So, really interesting time for us to look at this, and I'm really torn. So I'm really interested to hear on what the team has to say and collaborate and come up with the next step. I will say, for the folks that have talked to me in the community, they're mostly against, which was interesting, right? Because they're taxpayers that maybe don't plan to build anything, but thought, you know, some of the, you know, future growth money we might need should come from all rather than a few. But certainly hear everyone's opinions and thought processes on this topic as we come to a consensus on the next step. So, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. I really don't, I'm not going to say what my opinion is, because I just want to dive right into this report. I think what we haven't talked about and we haven't delved into yet is how did we come up with these numbers? Are the things that are identified for the costs to be covered in the future, are these the right things that we were thinking about when we started talking about development charges? You know, when I look at table 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, we have not had any discussion about this at all. Like, where did we come up with the line items? Are these the right costs? Are these items and some of these items really what we were expecting? I'm gonna be honest with you, it wasn't what I was expecting. What I would really want to do was, in my mind, development charges are, to cover costs that is a necessity for growth, not a wish list for growth. And I'm gonna be quite frank with you, I'm looking at these tables and I'm seeing wish lists, for the most part, not necessity. When I look at the fire, I do see a ladder truck, I do see expansion of buildings. To me, that's a necessity. If we get another 3 to 4 to 5 to 600 people, maybe 1,000 people, actually it'd be more than that. If you take a population of 3 people per household, that's gonna be almost 1,000 in Iroquois right off of one subdivision alone. We just, did a rezoning of a property in Iroquois for multi-res. So I think we should be diving into these tables first before we make any type of decision to make sure that what we're seeing here in terms of the figures and what we're seeing on the line items is exactly what we thought we should be, in the direction we should be going into. You know, so I'd be quite frank with you, Stephanie, I don't think we should be making any decisions of where we should land on the DC, if it should be 100% of the 10, or it should be 50% or 75, before we really have a fully understanding of where staff and what their mindset was on this list. And I think that may drive it more than just coming up with a number. For me, I think that would drive it more than just coming up with a number. And I'm not sure if tonight we're prepared to do that or not, but you know, I think one of our biggest assets is our water and our wastewater. I think we should be protecting for the growth of, potential growth, if we have to start oversizing pipes for drainage because we have more users on board for sanitary. If we have to start thinking about upsizing some of our water mains because we need to feed more water. To me, that's where my mindset is where we should be going, what we should be thinking about. You know, I'm thinking we should be maybe putting potentially a little bit more money in our service connections and reducing the development charge portions to get that more balanced out. You know, so that's where my mindset is, Mayor Broad. I'm not sure if the other council members have that same mindset, but I think that's, before we just start making decisions on where we should land, I think this is why we've got the community, the whole meeting was to really dive in and talk about this report a little bit more in detail.
Yeah, to that point, I guess if there was an appetite to do no fee, then it would be a moot point to dive into the charts. I guess maybe something to think about as well. Yeah, no, totally understand your point. Maybe we could take some other comments and then we can do that. Sure, Councillor Wood.
Thanks, Mayor. So I agree with the deputy mayor wholeheartedly. I think to settle on a percentage, you know, we talk about as a council that we make data-driven decisions, and I really think that there's some things in these charts that the deputy mayor was talking about that we've asked not to be included in other things, and they keep coming back. And I think those are the things we really need to look at as council and say, is this what we want our community to look like in 5, 10, 15 years? If it is, great. If it's not, then let's eliminate it now and let another council in 5 years decide to add it back in and then increase the development charges. I think for me personally, I did bring this subject up altogether because, you know, I hear a lot from the community that they don't like their taxes increasing. They don't want to see taxes continue to increase. So I just wanted to see if there was an alternative revenue source that we could, as a council team, look at. And this is an alternative revenue source for us. I do think that if we look at these tables, perhaps we could come to a number that we could all agree on. I do think that the amount is higher than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. And I agree, like, I do think our infrastructure is something that we definitely need to protect and prepare for, because as more people move to the community, there's going to be more need for that infrastructure. So roads, water, sewer, those are kind of the building blocks. I did have one question, if I may, Mayor. And it's a question about table 5.3. So it's about project number 13. It says provision for parkland development. And the reason I'm asking this question is because as new lots are subdivided, they pay a parkland in lieu, right, when they subdivide. So I just want to make sure we're not charging someone when they do a subdivision, or charging someone when they make lots off their farm for parkland. And then we're also saying in our development charges, you're paying for parkland again. So I just don't want to double charge people, and that's one of the items on the table that I personally don't agree with, because I think it's kind of like a double charge. Not in a mean way, but I just think it's one of those items that we could probably maybe look at, because it is hitting, the DC is actually quite significant for that portion. I agree with green space, I agree with developing that, but I just think we already charge for that when we do the land subdivision. So one of the items I just had a question about, is that the same thing?
I just want to grab the right table. Did you say 513?
It's 5.3. It's
Okay.
on page 78 of the agenda package, if that helps.
Yeah.
And then it's item, it's called project number, but it's item number 13.
So I was a part of not all the conversations. Each conversation happened with each director as they relate to it. Specifically where Watson was going with that, I can absolutely ask. We do charge Parkland for severances when they create an additional residential lot. If that lot isn't capable of handling a residence on it, like a surplus dwelling, they're not charged that parkland fee. But specifically as to what that number is referring to, I can't confirm.
And no,
But what
that's fine, Mayor. I think if you want to take it back with you and just confirm, I just want to make sure, I could be wrong, they might be totally two different things. I just want to make sure, you know, if we do pick these things in this list, I want to make sure I can defend them to the community and say like, no, that they are two separate things, or if they are the same thing, then maybe we can look at reducing that line item. But otherwise, Mayor, I would agree. I would think that, I don't know if it needs to be a separate discussion, or maybe council needs to submit their comments to staff further on the items in the table. But I would imagine that some of these items are from master plans, would be my
Yeah,
guess.
that's fair to
Yeah.
say for sure. Definitely the list comes from
The master plans, yeah.
the master
okay.
plans.
Yeah,
Which is,
but
Partly
some
a wish
master
list.
plans aren't approved, right? So that's the other problem, like we're seeing some items that are
Yeah,
in
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Yeah,
of
that
course.
we haven't,
Sure.
okay.
yeah. Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to do a subsequent to, Councillor Ward's and my, so, just in general, are we, and I understand that we can't go above the max that's in the bylaw, but are we married to any type of table that gets created? Are we married to this? Like, how does that relate to us being bound to this report?
Through you, Mayor Broad. So the study has not been adopted. So if what we're hearing from council is that you're not happy with the contents of the study, then what we can do is that can be the direction we bring back to Watson. So if there's items that you'd like us to look at or remove or provide a little bit more details on, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, sorry, Seth, but that's what I was kind of referring to. If we adopt the report and whatever the tables look like at the end of the day, are we bound by that table after we adopt the bylaw?
Yes.
Yes, we are, okay. So I think that's even just as much importance that we make sure we thoroughly go through these tables and make sure that what is being in the table is what.
Right, so,
agree
yeah,
on.
so I was thinking, as my prelude was, you know, are we feeling like we'd like to continue and work on the tables and think about, you know, we want to do a fee, or, you know, or, you know, are folks feeling like, I don't want to charge $10,000 for a house, and, you know, we want to build a 200,000 square foot another warehouse, well, that's $200,000. you know, or they're not building it, right? So twofold. One is the data, right, in the chart, but then one is like, if we implement it, right, these are the potential figures that we're collecting from, right? And we might say it's the developer. Well, it's the end user are paying for it, right? So the end user's paying for it. So just, that's what I was thinking in my initial comments. Yeah. But you're totally right on point about the charts themselves. Yeah, Councillor Smith?
Through you, Mayor Broad, just to go back to the point that Councillor Ward had on that column there, the total of that column was 1.6 million, and that parkland fee was 225,000 of that, so that's a significant change if that number is not supposed to technically be in there, so that's, yeah. So.
Yeah, but that's,
Yeah.
I guess that's also then considering we would do the maximum, right? Like,
Right, yeah.
So like if we choose not to do the maximum, it's somewhat of a moot point. Whether it's on the list or not
Right.
is a moot point, but
Right.
the dollar amount might be a moot point if we were never considering doing 100%.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's how I'm thinking
Yeah,
about it.
so I've been feeling the same as what you have. The numbers are, to me, quite staggeringly high, especially on the commercial industrial side. Even on the residential side, even the 50% rate, I think is high. So to me, I would like to see a 25% number, or should it actually still be zero? Should it be just status quo? That's kind of where I was thinking. It's either going to be, for me, it's either going to be zero, or it's going to be something around that $2,500 mark approximately. That's just what I was thinking. I do have a few more comments whenever we get over like the industrial commercial stuff. I was just looking up on municipal websites, like all of our neighbors around us, and how much they're charging. Anybody can just pull these up if you just like look on their search bar on their website and just look up like their development charge bylaw. And it was, North Dundas's is quite high. I believe North Dundas's is around 12,000 for if I had the right number, for a single detached home. And South Stormont's, I think, around the 5,000 mark, for 4 to 5,000. So, but the thing is that if you look in Leeds and Grenville to the west of us, there are, of the 7 or so municipalities in Leeds and Grenville, there's only 3 that have any, and the other ones have 0. So we're not always looking for comparisons going east. We should be looking for comparisons going west as well, which they're at 0.
Cardinal 0, right?
At 0,
yeah, they're our
yes.
closest
And on the industrial side as well, commercial side as well, is 0.
Yeah.
So that's, if you were looking to build a warehouse somewhere along the 401, we'll get to this later. If you're looking for here, or if you're looking in Johnstown, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, whole nother conversation. Yeah, point well taken. That's exactly what I'm thinking. The balance between the data itself and what's required, and then the ramifications of implementing it, I guess. Councillor Ward?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So back to Councillor Smith's point, like I agree, like, and I can understand like the $2,500, like I see where you're coming from, and I can appreciate whatever municipalities are doing around us. You know, we can look to our left and look to our right, and you know, there's growth happening in all the places that there's development charges. There's just as much growth maybe where there isn't. So I'm not sure what the right argument is there. If development charges hinder people from developing, like look at the city of Ottawa, like obviously that's also a city, right? So they have amenities that maybe we just don't have. And I'm not sure if it's really development charges that are stopping people, or if it's amenities that, to your point, maybe we can't attract because we're charging development charges. So maybe we look at, you know, what do we want our community to look like 5-10 years from now? Do we want to see a big box store? Do we want to see smaller single family detached homes? Like, in my opinion, I think we really need to decide as a council what we want our township to look like, and then we can go back to these items and these charts and kind of eliminate things as we go. Because as much as I'd love to just say we could charge $2,500, I'd really like it to be based on data, right? Like I'd really, like $2,500 is great, but if we're getting rid of almost everything in these tables, then are we doing a disservice to our future? Especially if we want to develop a specific type of community, right? But maybe we want to see more industrial and growth or something like that. And I just think these are really big discussions. And
Yeah.
I struggle with them because when people approach me and ask me what I want our community to look like, well, in my opinion, I'd love to see our community grow it, with young families, and I'd love to see, schools continue to develop really well. But there's amenities that come with having young families that maybe a senior-orientated community wouldn't have. But also, I want to see our seniors grow and thrive here as well. So I think these are really tough discussions, to the mayor's point, because I'm not sure that we all have had that discussion yet. Like, what do we want our community to look like? And maybe we tailor our development charges to that. So if we want to see more industrial, commercial growth, like maybe we eliminate development charges for them. But then we're placing the onus on single family. If we decide to go development charges route, we would be placing some of that burden on them. And maybe that's where we look at these items in these tables and say, do we really need no offense, Director Jansen, do we really need a second volleyball court? Maybe we don't. I mean, it's minimal and it's $50, but these are, I'm not nitpicking. I'm just saying, like, maybe these are things we need to have a discussion on, like so I'm not sure where council wants to start, because I think these are really, really big decisions, and I'm not answering any questions, or maybe I'm asking more questions, but I don't know what the feeling is there. Like, do we want to have a discussion about what we want the community to look like first? Or do we want to talk about the tables?
Mayor Broad, if I may.
Sure.
Maybe I misunderstood the deputy mayor's question. The list of items that are a part of the development charges study are items that the directors believe could be needed in the future based on us growing. We're not married to the actual projects themselves, just the fact that it's the fact that Watson has to provide a defensible study. They have to provide how they came to the numbers. They need to associate that with projects. So it doesn't necessarily mean that these are the items that we are going to spend the development charges on, but they are they are the product, or the sum of the projects are is how they derive the end value in the development charge. Does that?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I understand what you're saying. I mean, to get to a number, you have to start somewhere, and you have to list some projects, and you got to get a value in them projects, and then it goes into a calculation, and based on a percentage, it gets broken up of residential, non-residential. So I'm okay. Thank you for that explanation. Because again, maybe I'm reacting to the tables unfairly, because again, and I'll just pick on David a little bit, when I look at his 15, 16 different items, I'm trying to figure out how big Earl Baker Park is and our beaches to be able to accommodate all this, because there's no way all of this can fit in there. There's just no way. So I think to Councillor Ward's point, I think it's a bigger discussion here of is this the direction we really want to go in based on what is presented in front of us, right? Again, I'm just thinking that may drive the discussion on what the actual development charges could be versus should be, or should be versus could be. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was just kind of going with that on the tables and the cost.
Councilor Vino?
All right. So I've been heavily conflicted as well on this one. And, us as council and staff, we get to see the books and whatnot within the municipality through a different lens than most of the public do. And so forgive me if I bounce around here, because I've been making a lot of notes as I've listened to everybody talk here. But one of the biggest points for me for DCs, and to Councillor Ward's point, is, as an alternative revenue stream and, people not wanting their taxes to go up, et cetera, we have to, if we choose to go towards DCs, we really have to your point, Mark, or Deputy Mayor, to drive into these tables, because I'm worried about charging new, like, incoming growth for amenities and such that will ultimately be enjoyed by the entire tax base. So why wouldn't you be, like, with the tax base density going up, if we're open for business without DCs and growth is happening and we're developing and we're gaining the tax base there, that is already going to organically pay for a lot of these amenities. And so if we're going to go towards DCs, to me, it has to be stuff that is directly related to the growth itself. So if we decide, to Councillor Ward's point, if we choose to go to an industrial look for our community, and we need to have firefighting equipment that can handle major industrial fires, well, that would be an amenity that would not be a benefit to the rest of the current tax base. But if we're going to build another volleyball court, that would be an amenity that the current tax base would also enjoy. So why should the incoming people bear the brunt of that whenever the rest of the tax base can as well? So I think that they only need to support the growth that we're looking for. So to your point, we probably do have to have a conversation about where we see the community going, and if we go with DCs, tailor that heavily to that. Because I also went through these charts, and there's stuff that I'm looking at, like, you know, I would use a new volleyball court, so I would be happy to increase my taxes to pay for that. But why should we deter a new family from coming to town with a $5,000, you know, hit on their new home? Or the IC&I stuff, like, or the industrial stuff, that's huge numbers, and that could deter. So that brings another question. You know, we're talking about neighboring DC charges. When did these, a good study to do would be, when did they implement their DC charges? Was it before or after their major growth? We're looking at, you know, Long Sault with some serious developments there. Did they have DCs in before? So did it deter growth, or did that come in afterwards? So I'd kind of like to look at our neighbors and see when they brought those in. You know, I watched the news quite a bit, and about a month ago, Premier Ford in a new conference was saying about how he's hoping to help get the federal government to help eliminate DCs across Ontario, because he sees it as a barrier to growth in many communities, including Toronto and GTA. And so, you know, if that's what the provincial government is looking at, I'm really torn on this. I think if we're going to go down this road, like I've said, it needs to be really specific as to what we're charging for, because I don't want to be deterring people from coming here because they have to bear the brunt of some stuff that everybody else is going to get to enjoy. So, you know, we can go low, and we can go none if we want, or we can go low and see what the real revenue that we generate is versus what the real, you know, burden is that it needs to pay for. I'm very torn. Honestly, coming into this meeting, I was probably gonna say that I would like to shelf this, but I like the idea of looking at it a little bit deeper in the view of what we want to see this community become, and see if, because we may need a little bit of this revenue to get to there, but I have concerns about, we're on a very precarious point in our development in South Dundas. We finally have just started to see a little bit of growth after stagnation for a long time. And so I really don't want to stall that out by implementing DCs hastily or improperly. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, no, very well put. Thank you for your comments, for sure. Yeah, and I think, you know, we've identified in our strat plan, you know, 3 key things we wanted to work on. Superior performance, operational excellence, right? And I think we had a great action plan, and we continue to work on that. And the 2 that connects in this topic, a growing connected community and sustainable dynamic growth, right? You know, and Ms. Moran will always say it's the right growth at the right time, at the right place, at the right, et cetera, right? So that's the key message there. And, you know, if you think of some of our key objectives that we had thought about in those areas, we didn't specifically address maybe deep enough what the look should be. I mean, we really targeted on how we wanted to attract new business, and new business customers was the first one, right? We wanted to make sure, people came for our businesses to have them grow, and then, any new industrial commercial type, right, to increase our tax base, right? And we were thinking about, how do we create the best staff, the best processes to engage with those developers, people, as we went along. Minimizing delays, having the checklist, all those type of things that we always wanted to have, on sustainable and dynamic growth. So maybe diving deeper into that look is what we need to do as part of our strat plan, use the principles around our strat plan that we already set forth, and dive deeper into that question. Is that maybe where your comments are leading, right on the dive into the list? Yep. Councilor Ward?
Yeah, I guess maybe one of the questions I would have for staff, and maybe something, obviously you're not gonna have the answer tonight, but something maybe we could bring back is if we have any data about anything in the past that has been growth related that we have had to pay for. So I'm thinking of new subdivision comes to town. What has the municipality, I don't want to say donated because that's not the right word, but what has the municipality tax base given for a new development to start in our township? What does that number look like historically? I know we haven't had a lot of growth to that point, but to Councillor Vino's point is that maybe if we have some rough numbers, even looking at that, like what are some of the things that we as a tax base have had to provide those developments over time to get them started? And what are those assets that maybe we still own? Maybe we can do an evaluation there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Well, would an example, and sorry to jump on, but like, we had to build Campbell Street or the extension of Campbell Street, right, for that industrial park, right? So we had to build that, right? So is that,
yeah,
right?
which the residential base doesn't generally benefit from. Yes, we benefit from the tax dollars that have come from that development, absolutely. But the road itself perhaps was an item that not everyone benefits from. So to Councillor Vino's point, there's some more data that maybe we could just take a look at and see. I do agree with your point. I think if it's not directly going to, if not everybody needs it, then maybe it doesn't need to be in this study. Like maybe it's just a direct need, like a special type of firefighting equipment or something like that. I absolutely agree. So maybe that's some feedback we could, you're smiling at me. I'm so sorry. Maybe this is not the
yeah,
discussion.
I don't want to, correct me, please speak up if you learn. And I don't think anybody's done anything wrong. I think we're just trying to work through the process of understanding how we're going to get to a place. Because I think we all feel it's not as simple as, yeah, let's do it.
And I think it's such a sensitive time, Mayor, right now, because housing is so expensive. So like other municipalities didn't have to have these discussions because housing interest rates were not so expensive.
right.
And not that that was
Supply
right or
chains,
wrong, but
housing
yeah,
rates, interest rates, all these things, they're compounding the cost.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's great discussion and really appreciate the feedback and input because it does help to, guide us at a staff level in terms of where council's mind is and what things we need to continue to provide. And we're in a fortunate position. We don't have to make any we're not making decisions. We're just having a discussion. So this is, I think for myself and I'm sure for Stephanie, been super useful. In talking about, and why I was thinking was, it's such a sliding scale of like, does this benefit the developers, and the one that comes to mind, and I'd love to get just to understand council's like view of it, is the idea of the north side of County Road 2 in Iroquois, we have a bunch of development taking place. We're going to need a new sidewalk machine for all those houses. Is that benefiting all because now we have another piece of equipment that can be part of a fleet that is kind of, balancing itself out and potentially, as the development happens, is doing some support elsewhere until it's completely built out. And those are things like I genuinely, I could, if council was strong on the left side of that argument, I'd be like, oh yeah, and a right side, yeah, that makes sense. So it's just such an interesting thing to talk about. And I welcome, as much information as we can gather from council, just so that we can make sure we, we present things in a way that makes sense for council.
Councilor Vino?
Yeah, so on that specific point or question, my question would be, the taxes that development would pay, like residential taxes, that's built into the tax rate for transportation and upkeep and whatnot, isn't not already? Like, you know, everybody else has to pay for their sidewalk to get cleared within their residential tax rate. So those folks then would pay a DC charge of X amount of dollars to buy the sidewalk cleaner, and then they would pay for it again in their taxes, just like everybody else already pays for it in their taxes to get their sidewalks done. So are they paying twice?
I think that was the argument he was making with
That's
himself.
it. That's what I
right?
mean.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's what
Yeah,
I mean. But
that's
that
right.
you
Yeah.
asked like, what would
Yeah,
our
left and
that would
right.
be my opinion on that one, or my question would be, is it not captured within the already implemented residential tax rate? Does it need to be something like that? Again, that's a small idea. I know what you're saying. The road was a very good example
Yeah.
of an asset that the municipality had to pitch forward that not everybody gets. So like that's a great example, those two. To my point about these DCs is, you know, yes, the industrial construction maybe should pitch more towards that road, but because it's not getting used by everybody else. But this sliding scale that you talk about can just be faded one way or the other, like for every topic. So to try and land on something here that's why I've been so conflicted.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. I think we're overthinking a little bit on what it's specific for. It's DC charges are for growth-related items. It's not specific to if a subdivision gets created and we need a snow plow that, well, they've only paid for, it's not their snow plow. It's everybody's snow plow. When I think about DC charges, and I'm just going with experience, it's for road widenings that's required because of traffic flow. It's because of oversizing of sewers and waters because of growth. It's items of expansions of fire stations, libraries. It's not specific, and we shouldn't dive into, well, if it's good for the whole community, maybe it shouldn't be in it. If it is good for the community, maybe it should be there. You got to simplify DC charges. That's how it works. It's got to be simplified. It's if we think it's growth-related items, then we have to set the rate based on that growth-related items. And if we feel if all these are growth-related items, and I didn't mean to come off saying a wish list versus essential, but I think that's what we're just saying. It's whatever is the essential items to cover growth-related. Doesn't matter how it's being generated or why it's being generated. It's just being generated. You know, it's not specific to a warehouse that's getting built. That okay, yeah. If we have to do an intersection, and I know we'd have roundabouts, but if we had to put another roundabout in, well, it's driven by that development, but it is a benefit to everybody. It's a benefit to everybody in South Dundas. It's a benefit to everybody outside of South Dundas because we just need it for traffic flow, right? So I think we're just overthinking a little bit. That's my perspective, Cole. And I'm not saying you're overthinking because you're a great thinker, don't get me wrong, but just with the history I have with DC charges, I don't think you dive into it to that degree. I will just want to circle back a little bit, because I've been kind of a little bit of should we have it, shouldn't we have it, and I was the first one to kind of oppose it when it was brought to our attention about maybe moving forward. But you know, as I just keep thinking about how do we protect our infrastructure in the future, how do we protect that it's not a continuous burden and a high burden for everybody in the future, I do believe a small DC charge would go a long way. And I don't think the value that we see today is the right value. I don't think 50% of that value is the right value. I think what we should be really considering, and we can dive in a little bit further, is maybe we got to rethink our connection fees a little bit, because when we increase our connection fees, we can use that money. It's not for growth-related items. We can use that money right away because it's not really a DC charge. It's just a service charge. And our biggest infrastructure is our water and wastewater and our pipes and our sanitary and our water pipes. That's our biggest infrastructure that we've got. So, you know, there's a way, I think there's a balance of maybe we should be thinking about increasing that a little bit and significantly decreasing our proposed development charges to probably, to what you were saying, Tom, to like 2/3 or 20, 75% reduction on this. We just want to protect, we want to increase revenue for protection of future growth, but we don't need to have millions in our bank. We just need to have a little bit for that work to be completed when it's necessary. And to me, that's my perspective on DC charges. Again, so that's why I was reacting to some of, again, I'll pick on David's because it was the first page I went to, but that's why I was kind of looking at some of these splash pads and whatnot going, to me, that's not the spirit of DC charges. I think what we should be doing on top of this, and we talked about this with MPP Nolan Quinn, is we actually should be lobbying that if we do charge DC, it doesn't necessarily need to be for growth-related items. It should be for improvement of existing infrastructure. That's really what that would be a further benefit than it, because as a small municipality, if you really think about it, what is our necessity that we're going to need? It's not a lot in terms of growth-related essentials. So if we could somehow, petition our provincial government to say, okay, we understand what you want to do with the DCs, but if you allow a small municipality of, let's say, less than 20,000 population or 15,000 to allow us not to just have it for growth related, but any revenue that we get off of DC charges can be used for upgrades of our infrastructure. To me, that's a better bonus than, or a benefit than growth related growth related items. It's just, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I think this is what we're supposed to be doing, is having this discussion. Right?
Yeah, no, you're.
So,
okay.
like for me, where I'm
We're gonna-
sitting, yeah, sorry,
Yeah, no.
I'm just saying, for me, where I'm sitting here today, I believe we could have development charges that are very small portion, that's not going to impact growth, because I think, Tom, you don't mind if I just use first name? Tom, I think if you really do a deep dive, development charges have been around for a long time, and it hasn't stymied growth as much as what people think it's going to. But it's got to be a right charge. It's got to be a minimal charge. It can't be, $10,000. Maybe it's $2,500. Again, if you do the math on what's coming, what potentially could come, I think you're going to find that that's going to give us a good value for growth related items in the future when it actually is needed.
Jump to this, Maureen.
Just a couple things. I do just want to get away a little bit. Deputy Mayor had mentioned water and wastewater. So this study does not speak to any water or wastewater charges, or they don't contribute to the proposed development charge either. That was something that staff had looked at, whether we included it or not, and we decided at the time not to include it just because those charges can't, under the Development Charges Act, they can't be used for just anything related to water and wastewater. So I just wanted to clarify that none of the numbers have been derived using any infrastructure related to water and wastewater. And secondly, just kind of what I'm hearing is that some of the line items that were used to create the development charge, or create the maximum allowable amount for a development charge, you don't necessarily agree with. And I think absolutely we can all appreciate that it's very subjective, right? So I think what we could do is we could look, I could have the directors come back, look at some of the line items in a little bit more detail, and see, and if there's any specific ones that you have any concerns about, we could absolutely look at removing those off of a contributing factor to that DC charge, and then we could actually bring back another sort of DC charge table that is a little bit more reflective of the items that that you deem that should be included.
Yeah, I think that was partly the conversation we were expecting.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to, Councilor Bean?
Yeah, we got bogged down on snow plow versus road here. But ultimately, I think the general consensus here is like trying to really be careful as to what actually needs to be covered by a DC charge so that the rate is right if we choose. Because even if we pick 25% of this rate, if this rate is way too high, then that 25% is still too high. And, right, and so I'm like, I agree, we're precarious with our finances as much as our growth. So I'm not against it. I would like to kind of tailor those tables a little bit better, I think, and come up with a real representative. Because yeah, like a lot of that recreation stuff, again, that to me, that goes to the rest of the tax base. We'll get to enjoy that too. So that should be on them. So anyways, I think the general consensus, what I'm hearing is we dive into these a little bit deeper and make sure that we get this number nailed down and then pick a, reduced rate or a percentage or whatever thereof, is what I think.
Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. I think in my opinion, maybe what would help staff, and maybe council can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe, if there's items on this that we would do regardless of growth. So if there's something on here like, again, Director Jansen, I'm sorry, I'm not purposely picking on you. It's just, it's right in front of me. So, the splash pad at Matilda Park, like if that is something that the community wants now and they raise money for, like maybe that's something that we, that doesn't need to be part of development charges. I can understand why you did, like, I understand why it's in there. But, we're really trying to minimize that fee. So it's something that maybe that community could raise. So kind of, does council agree with that? Like, if it's something we're going to have anyways, I'm not sure that growth should. Okay.
Good. Ms. Moran?
And I think a lot of these numbers, we do have in South Dundas, again, we were just discussing Parks and Rec and how it's sort of second to none in departments. And I think we do have a very high level of service when it comes to Parks and Rec. And I think that's part of the contributing factor as to why the percentage for Parks and Rec was so high. Because we offer a high level of quality of life, and that comes in that form of Parks and Rec. And I think it's important to sort of think about too, when you mentioned the volleyball court, and it's not necessarily, it'd be really nice to have a volleyball court. Now there is an increased number of people who now are putting pressure on the existing volleyball courts to get some time too, right? So I think that's with the splash pad, and same sort of thing. I think that's where some of that, some of the itemized list has come from, is just the idea. And a lot of this has been spurred by conversations with Sean Michael Stevens with Watson, is what do we realistically, with the rate of growth as it is over the next 10 years, what do we realistically expect could be needed to support the new growth and the new residents that are being welcomed into South Dundas.
Okay. So I think, Councilor Smith, yeah.
Yeah, so just, for me, like, it comes down to like economics 101. If you all of a sudden hit somebody with a $10,000 extra fee to build a house, they're gonna go someplace else. So, just thinking about the water, wastewater, how long has that, I know we're not talking about that specifically, but just thinking out loud, how long have those fees been set at 5,000? When was the last time that they were increased, or have they ever been increased?
I do believe that they've never been changed, and that's been part of the conversation, is that we've never looked at the water and wastewater fees.
So it's been like
from when they were set.
like a decade, or how long has it been? It's been quite a while.
Through you, Mayor Braun,
Yeah.
I believe it's been like that since the water plant came on in 2005.
That's fine.
So
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Dynamic conversation for sure. So I think we can leave it at that for now. Ms. Moore, do you have some clear direction that we could go work on a little bit? Clear on that it's the tables, right? We want to work on the tables. That's my point. And I
Right.
think you should, I think for us that had comments about the tables, we want to flow feedback to the CAO, right, on the tables, and then flow it to you. And then when you guys meet, you can have some ideas of, you know, how each of us individually are thinking about those tables and what's there. And then we can regroup again and then discuss, you know, what you cut out, why, and what's in, and what's out. Because I think good news is if we did that in reverse, and we had such a small table, we would be saying, well, what about a splash pad in Matilda? Why wouldn't that be growth, right? So, you know, we'll get to the place we need to be one way or another. So.
I just think we need to look at this as second round of budget deliberations. We've already whittled it, keep whittling it down, right, to get it as low as you can for the DCs.
Sure. Keep looking at it. Okay. CO Don?
Yeah, if I may, just to make sure we're setting expectations correctly for council, like realistically, we'll be, you know, I think August is realistically at our August meeting when we can get back with some of that information. Certainly, we'd love to get some feedback if there's specific items. The way I kind of envision it in my mind is we're going through those tables and talking with the directors where those projects like were derived from. You know, is it the strategic plan here? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? So we'll start that background information and look for any feedback that council might have on it. But I think we could have a great discussion in August. I hope that's not over promising and kind of looking around the table just as summer goes, and you know, we've got some projects in mind.
Yep, no, absolutely.
During
Yeah,
the summer
we have
break,
lots of more items that we'll be working on too, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. Okay. Moving on to 6B, Fire Master Plan, path forward. So, Fire Chief, Director of Fire Services, Jeremy Aldrich Hughes, and CO Dahan, I think are going to co-chair the conversation.
Thank you, and I'm going to start it off, and then I'll push it over to the chief to lead us through presentation, which is you know, high-level summary of the report that council's got in front of them today. I think what I wanted to, and the reason I wanted to just participate in this discussion as well is just to make sure you know, we're here to take notes and listen to council and get some input and feedback. You know, in terms of the fire master plan itself, and I know it. Even the start of it predates, I think, both of our careers here at South Dundas. But ultimately, what we were looking for through that fire master plan was really an industry professional to give us some an unobjective review of our fire services. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say from what I, you know, feedback I've heard through council, just even feedback here from staff and, you know, particularly the chief, is that, you know, it was not a fire master plan that we were particularly happy with. Like, we have to be very blunt about that. We know it wasn't well received, and we know that it didn't really reflect the reality of South Dundas in terms of what it was promising or suggesting we should be doing to move forward. That being said, when we so really didn't meet expectations. So one of the things that, and I appreciate the chief's, you know, looking at this, is that how there's recommendations in that fire master plan, and the recommendations, even though what it was telling us how to achieve those recommendations was very, again, not reflective of our capacity and our capability and our fiscal possibility. The reality was that there's, when you peel back those recommendations and look at the intent of what was being suggested in that fire master plan, one of the takeaways that we've had at a staff level is that there's a lot of things that the chief and the fire service have already been working on to meet the intent of those objectives. So it very much aligns with the direction in terms of you know, things that are intended to improve that fire service. So really, that's what we're here for today. Is we really want to provide a little bit of provide council with a little bit of overview of, yes, even though there's these, I'm going to call them high arching recommendations that you know, we're suggesting things that were not feasible for us. The reality is there's things in there, and the chief's going to talk about those quick wins right from the outset. You know, how we're able to move forward with those things. One of the things that we do have is there's some tougher discussion points that we want to have those discussions today. and really kind of put some of those items to bed as well too, so that we know, and we are, it's very clear around our table and around council table what we're focusing on as we continue to move forward. And then kind of the last thing we're going to end with is what we see and what we're looking for council's direction in terms of next steps. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chief, who's going to talk about, again, I hope council we're looking for some good feedback and see some of that great progress that we've been making on some of these things that are moving the fire service forward. So with that, I'll throw it over to you, Chief.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to kind of summarize the report and some of the things that we've done. So out of the 24 recommendations, we would consider 21 of them either already complete or not currently applicable. With that, just touching on a few quick points, one of the things that was brought was our staffing levels for full-time staff. So we did successfully hire a full-time fire prevention officer. And a lot of the duties and responsibilities that were listed through the coordinator's position, trainings officer's position, and other things like that have been divided between the two staff, myself and the prevention officer, and we're moving forward quite successfully. So that's something that somewhere down the road in the future, if there was a need for any increased staff, then there would be a report brought back to council with data supporting it, and that discussion could happen at that time. But as far as right now, we're comfortable in our current staffing levels. It was noted that South Dundas Fire and Emergency Services needed a health and wellness program. That was already being developed at the time of the study. So currently, South Dundas Fire and Emergency Services has a counselor that comes in and does formal PIRs now following every serious incident. Providing support for the staff. We have Homewood Health EAP program that a few of our members have utilized and has been a great success for us. We've partnered with a group for a fitness and wellness program. Our cancer prevention has been increased with the coveralls we purchased, as well as our new decon units and protocols. Those were also purchased through a grant, so we've also been successful in grant funding and stuff to meet these objectives. First Due has been a huge success for us. A lot of the fire master plan spoke about pre-planning records, training records, those types of things. First Due has been a huge connection for us with the community. Pre-plans, records, more data. So historically, we didn't have great access to the data that we had for call volumes, that sort of thing. You'll see through the slide, I've given a screenshot of our dashboard now where we calculate our calls daily, call stats. I can break it down to how many people are leaving on the first truck, the average kilometers to a scene, all sorts of stuff. Anything that council wishes to know, we can create a report for that. For firefighter retention programs, that was another recommendation. We've partnered with a financial institute that provides lots of support for our fire staff and seminars. We restructured our pay structure with the new mission, vision, values, and a rebranding. It starts talking about fleet. We are now currently up to date with our fleet. So in addition to being current and up to date to our fleet, we've also been able to repurpose 3 vehicles within the municipality to get extended life value out of them. Operationally, we've increased to multi-station responses for anything that's structure fire related, which has resulted in less time on scene and bigger saves. As council knows, we did bring a report a couple months ago discussing our new joint training ventures, service agreements, and purchasing, group purchasing with municipality. So out of that, quick overview, again, 21 out of the 24 recommendations really don't need to be discussed. So the first recommendation that we're going to talk about is the fleet management plan. So Again, we've already got our fleet up to date. There is a section in there where it speaks about a aerial truck. That aerial truck is based off of the Fire Underwriter Survey, which is a guideline and recommendation for municipalities. And part of that is after you have 5 buildings, 3 stories or greater, fire aerial truck apparatus should be added. So currently we have 5 buildings. And we do have a proposed 8 more coming in Iroquois and another one in Morrisburg, which would put us at 14. So this speaks again to the work that we're doing with the neighboring departments. It was speaking towards our updating our bylaw with mandatory training and equipment providing services. So stuff like the ice water rescue, the tech rescue, that kind of stuff. So this was all kind of in that report that we brought with our joint ventures, and I'll be bringing another report as we keep progressing with what options there are with us trading services. So this is talking about the monitoring of calls for increasing services due to planning and growth. So First Dew's really been letting us get a better handle on that. And we're continuing to monitor that, and we can bring a report back to council as service levels need to increase. The purchase, training, and implementation of PPE for technical rescue. So this is one of those things that if council wished to move forward with, we could update our bylaw to that, and that could be part of the service that we offer not only our residents but our neighboring departments in exchange of their ice water rescue or their hazmat and other services. As far as updating the business continuity plan for emergency management, I'm currently updating the entire emergency management program. So that's our business continuity, HIRA, critical infrastructures. This is just our year to date. So 21 calls this month, 118 this year. We are a little bit ahead of last year. And last year we finished off at 297 calls. So this is just a sample of what I can send out every quarter so that you're up to date and aware of what our emergency services are actually performing and doing. And the other item to talk about is the fire stations. So it was mentioned about rebuilding and relocating some stations in the fire master plan. There is, of course, that option, but there's also an option to just have a study done on the stations to determine what they actually need to meet the requirements, and should a renovation happen, what would that extended life look like? So council would have options to be able to then determine which direction they would want to go, and it would also set us up for the ability to apply for grants and stuff should that come available.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Chief. A few clarifying questions I'm going to kick off with. So you had said 21 out of 24 of the recommendations were either covered or not applicable, so I would leave 3, but I think you listed 5 things, so and maybe they tie together. So if we just go back a few slides, so if the first one, and I just want to get my list right so that we can bang on. So first one is aerial truck requirements, right?
So it should be aerial truck.
Yep.
The tech rescue stuff
Okay.
we're already working on.
Okay. PPE tech rescue. Yep.
So fire stations.
Yep. So aerial, fire stations, And then you talked about emergency management and the tech rescue, which,
So emergency management's already in
right,
progress.
right, yeah, and we work with other counties, I know we have a team, so that's a program. But it's technical rescue, so those are the three areas that you want direction on?
Yes.
Is your question? As the other 21 items, you either have a solution for, or are not applicable to.
Yes, sorry.
And then, so would we then, spitballing here, would we then, make some decisions or give you some options, and then would we have the study rewritten so that we would have a study that we would accept? Was that the intent of the next, right?
Yeah.
Right, so you know what I'm saying, so like, because we want to have a report in the end that we accept, and that we can give you, that then you can go run with, right? So that would be, because I don't think we're gonna accept the report as is. Or, you know, that's your guidance, we want to give you some feedback, change the report to what we reflect, and then you can start to work on that. Is that the idea?
Yes, so yes, so that we can make sure the DC study is up to, so this is the exact kind of stuff that we were just talking about, which is like, it ties in so nicely with our previous discussion. I think we have to be mindful of the fact that, yes, it's a consultant that we have paid for and hired. It is someone that has worked external to this. There's a limit to, and I can speak from my consulting days, there's a limit to what you're willing to change in your report based on your professional opinion. I think there is that opportunity, which is option 2, to work with that consultant to amend that master plan. We are very close to our budget limit, and it will cost some money to the municipality, which is why actually we are recommending, if I'm being quite honest with council, I think our preferred from a staff level is actually just doing a supplemental report on top of it, so that there's the complementary element, which I hope we've conveyed to council tonight in terms of the work that's been taking place and how we've achieved the intent of those recommendations, but then also identify those things like the aerial vehicle, if that's something that council supports, the tech rescue, kind of that direction with the tech rescue, and then as well, like looking at our existing facilities to ensure we're in good position going forward with those stations. So was there anything else you wanted to add to that, Chief?
Yeah, and sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify too, these directions and stuff in this report are basically to get us to an objective. There's many paths we can get to that objective, and I'm just going to use the aerial truck as an example. I was on via Zoom the night the plan was presented, and I recall choking when the mention of a $3 million aerial truck was suggested. There's many used apparatus, we call them parade trucks, that many departments, especially in Canada, purchase. For a couple $100,000, they have 1,600 or 16,000 kilometers on them, and that's a truck that'll serve your community for the next 15 years. So just understanding that, like, we're wanting to work together to find solutions that are going to make sense while meeting the objectives.
Okay, very good. Oh, so we have three areas to discuss. Certainly, I think, and I know I've said this before, just on the aerial truck, and I mentioned I'd like to have a trigger for that, and I know in the slide it had we've already hit that trigger, and I don't necessarily think we have or should execute at this point, but I'll leave it up for other council to comment on as well. But for sure, as with the growing of the municipality, the buildings are compounding right how many we have, so considerations should be made at some point. And then also thinking about, what shared services, right? If we have apparatus and the municipality to the north does not, how does that, work out from a cost sharing? Because I know you've started some good work on other areas of cost sharing. So certainly something, we'd want to hear about for sure, and know what other municipalities are thinking. But I'll open up to the council team for comments. Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So with regards to next steps, I would prefer option 1. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think you have the expertise in-house. You've been here for how many years now? 2 years. You also have a wealth of knowledge at your station chief level. They understand how the community functions. They understand what the community need is. So I think you have that in-house. And I think at this point, asking a consultant to amend their work when they're clearly, that really wasn't what they wanted to do at the last meeting, I think that, you know, this would be the next step. And I do think you do the community service by doing that. Not only because it's going to save money, but also because you're the boots on the ground. You know what's going on. You know what the budget looks like. So that's kind of where I'm going. Are we just giving, do you want
Yeah, two
all
things.
feedback at once, or
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
want?
we can kind of bounce around a little. It's pretty whole, so we can kind of bounce
Okay.
around a little bit. So, yeah, so continue if you wish at this point, and then at least people, when other folks are talking, they know what, you know, it's kind of out there already, right? So,
Okay, I had more of a question. My next point was more of a question. So the fire underwriters survey is something insurance companies use to justify specific rates. Yes? Yes. We're all looking at the poor clerk. I don't know if she knows that. It is, yeah.
It is used in the insurance industry, yes, to rate specifically the distance to fire halls and the response time. It factors into the rating of the insurance cost.
And subsequent to that, Mayor, so if we did not purchase a ladder truck and everybody built 10-story buildings, let's say, I know our limit is not 10, I looked to the planner, I know that, but hypothetically speaking, that would not affect the residents who are living in single-family detached homes or duplex. It would only impact the insurance rates of the people who own those multi-story buildings,
Through you, Mayor Broad,
or anyone around them, I guess.
I think that, you know, I don't think I have the answer, the perfect answer to that, if I'm being honest. I think that there's definitely a mythology to how they rate homes, but I think we would probably have to get some like the experts who are in it and working in it, because underwriters are different than insurance agents.
yeah.
Do you know, if you know what I mean? So, but I think that's a great question that we could certainly find the answer to.
Chief?
Yeah.
Thank you. So when I was speaking with fire underwriters just about the whole dynamic of it, the way it was kind of explained was that when you're dealing with your apparatus, your years of service, your style of apparatus, how many, that goes towards your overall community insurance rating. So it's a numbered 1 through, I think they said 7. So this also complements our tanker shuttle accreditation. It also complements so it's kind of all packaged in, where our apparatus will impact our overall rating, and then those other smaller components may determine different insurance adjustments for somebody that lives within 8 kilometers of a fire hall, has the tanker shuttle accreditation, is the owner of that larger building, and those sorts of things.
So I think I would look just to get a little bit more information, because the reason why I'm asking is because if it's, again, going back to that direct benefit, if you want to build a multi-story building in South Dundas and you're asking the residents to, I know there are used pieces of equipment, but I'm sure there's a large maintenance that comes with those. I just want to fully understand if it is a community benefit to have a ladder truck or if it is a sole benefit to a high-rise structure. And I do notice that it's specifically those that are 30.5 meters or taller. And I don't want to ask too much detail, but I'd love to know how many buildings are 30.5 meters or taller in this township. Because I think some of the buildings might be 2.5 stories because their basement, you know what I'm talking, it's not actually full 3 stories. So I'm not trying to get out of it. It's just a big commitment for council to make. And, you know, I look to our neighbors, like Edwardsburg Cardinal has a ladder truck. They're really not that far away from us. You know, partnering on purchasing might be an option. Maybe that would affect I don't know how that would affect insurance. So these are all questions I hope when we have this bigger discussion about a ladder truck, if we continue to have this discussion about a ladder truck, that this is the information that I would need to say yes or no. That's my opinion about that. The same with the tech rescue, like how often does that happen? What benefit does that have to I'm sure there is a benefit, but what benefit is that to the greater good? Because these are really big investments that you're asking council to make. And I think the community understands there's a general need for some of these investments, but I'd like to have the information to be able to tell them what that investment means for them at the end of the day. Does it mean a reduced insurance rate? Does it mean, faster service? Like the data you're collecting is excellent. And I think that would help that. If you kind of does that make
Yeah.
sense? Okay. Okay. That's all. I
Yeah,
have to
no,
say.
I'll just add on because I wanted that just before we move on. Just on the fire station piece, we really didn't want to tie that to our Tyler's Nelson's asset management plan, right? I think those two should be a synergy together, right? So to understand how what's the current expectation of the current facilities, right? And then, what would be future plan, to your point of, at some point, we would then have a plan to replace that asset. And then, like you said, if there's grants available, that's exactly where we'd want to go on that. Councilor Vino.
Sure, I have some notes. Number one on the aerial, so, we're a data-driven council, and we did ask for a trigger, and now that we have been told by, the underwriters that this is the typical, trigger for buildings and that we're over that, we do have to be, aware of our decisions going forward with that. We do have a number of aging, apartment buildings, and within them, aging population. So I think, this is a conversation, I think, for our DC charges. I agree. I think this is one of those growth related items that maybe we can tailor our DC charges to certain demographics paying certain rates because it's, high rise versus low rise. We have more of those buildings coming. I know you identified 14, and I don't know if the one was included over here, the next phase 3 of, the name escapes me. They just finished up phase 2. Yeah. So there's going to be another one over there. We do spend over $300K per plow truck. So, the plow truck lasts us 5 to 10 years. If we spend $200K-ish on a fire apparatus that lasts us 15 years, I mean, it's not a $3 million fire truck, way out to lunch. This, for our municipality, might not be too bad. One thing I would like to look at, and this will lead me into the tech rescue, I like the direction that, you and the other municipalities have been going to look at this holistically as an SD&G problem. I think I'd like to look to our neighboring municipalities. Like we have had, I was on a fire call with the municipality to our west, the Prescott Russell brought theirs down, or Prescott, sorry. And it was great, but it did take a long time to get there, and if somebody was in peril. But, if North Dundas and South Stormont and, Edwardsburg Cardinal and whatnot, we're all amenable to some service agreements there, maybe some sources of revenue to cover some of these costs, that might be something I'd like to look into. Leading into the tech rescue, so water rescue, would that be our contribution to the group?
Chief?
No, so there's different levels of tech rescue. So South Stormont has already gone ahead and done the ice water, swift water. They have a boat, they have teams put together. When we're talking this technical rescue, we're talking rope rescue confined space. In the last year, I know of 2 grain bin silo rescues that had to take place. And both instances, they were waiting for teams and aerial trucks to come out of Ottawa. So that's where kind of the rope tech kind of goes with an aerial. To the north of us, they happen to have staff already that are with the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office Emergency Response Unit and have tech level hazmat stuff. So to try and kind of tailor different things to each community where it's things that we already need or we're being triggered to something, but then on a cost recovery basis. So if that team or that device goes out 10 times this year, we're charging 10 times at the MTO rate for that cost recovery. In turn, if we ask for South Stormont to come over twice this year for water rescue, they would be invoicing us that rate for those services. So it's kind of a model where we're doing a pay per use with each other, but we're now able to offer a full complement of services to our municipality at a fraction of the cost because we're only maintaining a discipline.
So that's where I was going to go with that one. I think for council's clarification, it'd be nice to almost get a list of what municipalities are going to have what disciplines and how you're kind of managing that web, I guess, or that network. Because, you know, if we're getting these resources or these benefits from these other municipalities who have gone and paid for their tech rescue, we need to hold up our end of the bargain and do our one thing and contribute to the county. Because I agree, tailoring it to individual department or individual municipality as to what benefits them the most, but then they can offer that out. I think that's exactly what I was looking for. But yeah, so I didn't know what it, like if, so are we looking then to also do water rescue in addition to South Stormont, or is this a different tech rescue then?
That's the rope tech rescue. That's
Okay,
not water
so-
rescue. So the idea is each municipality now can train to an awareness level, which is a much simpler certification. You're not consistently working to upgrade that skill, where at the tech level, there's consistent training and upgrading. So now when South Stormont comes in, as an example, to do our water rescue, our crews are trained at the awareness level and ops level for the shore to be able to support them. When our team goes to, say, North Stormont for their tech rescue, their staff is trained at the awareness level and they're able to support our staff.
So we won't be looking for, because I thought I saw, we're not looking for boats or
No boats.
anything to do
No
water
boats.
rescue. That's going to be managed by them. Okay, so that was my question. So, nope, go ahead.
You're done? Yeah, no, I just wanted to add on too, just about the fleet piece, right? I've been really adamant of what's in our fleet schedule. We continue to work on and we save for, right? And we continue to buy at the timelines and, you know, we adjust as we think about it. But when we add something to that fleet schedule, right, I'm like, I want to make sure, because not only are we buying it once, we're buying it many times over, right? And we have to save for that, right? So it's not a one-time purchase. So I've been adamant all along. If you've heard me all say, if it's in the schedule, okay, let's keep saving for it and buying it. If it's not there, then we want to be really clear to add that expense, because it's a lifetime to add it, you know, until we take it away. So anyways, my comment on fleet schedules, since you mentioned it. Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. And I just want to add on to the one comment, and maybe this is data that can be brought back. And this may sound extremely political, but I also want to make sure that South Dundas is not buying a brand new ladder truck or whatever we're buying to have tech rescue that is worth more than every other contribution from every other township. And I'm all for working together, but I also need to have an understanding of what the investment looks like from the other townships. Because if we're putting out $3, $4, $5 million to get this, but it's not even being spent in South Dundas, the majority of the time it's somewhere else, the cost recovery of an MTO rate is not that high. So the tax base would have to front that money. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we're all equal in this and then we're all equally investing. I'm all for working together and I suggested it. I 100% am behind that. Just want to make sure, like, you know, hazmat and boats, I'm sure they're expensive, but are they as expensive? And I would probably argue probably not. So I just want to make sure that we're all contributing in the same way. And maybe if there's a way that we could split on the truck, or, you know, maybe the MTO rates aren't enough. Like, those are some things that I would want to entertain, but might not be a popular opinion, but I want to protect our tax base as well and the investment we have to make up front, because it could be a long time before we recoup that. And actually, I hope it's a long time before we recoup that, because that means we're not using it, which is great, but anyways.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, all good points that I've heard. I 100% agree with you. I think if we're going to be buying this type of apparatus, I think it should be a cost share split, not on a user base. But we did have a question, and I'm not sure if it got answered or not, and it was related to DC charges or recovery, that if we partnered up with another municipality and they bought the apparatus, but we have let's say 3 municipalities got together and it was a third split. Can we use a third of, if we go with the DC charges, can we use a third of the DC charges to recover that it's not coming from the tax base, it's funded through the DC charges? I think we asked that question before, but I'm not sure we got that answer.
Yeah, more like.
Or maybe just
If we
refresher.
bought a vehicle, could somebody else's DC charges come to
Correct,
us,
vice
right? That's
versa,
the question
yeah.
for, it works both ways, right? Ms. Moore?
If I'm being honest, I don't think the legislation has caught up to that, outside of the box thinking, and the way that we actually do business oftentimes is in partnerships. But I will definitely,
Okay.
it refreshes my memory. I'm going to ask our consultant that.
And for the buildings that are going up into Valcraft, the apartment buildings, are they wood frame or steel? Wood frame, so that's gonna suggest, to your question, they are about 3 stories high, because if you get to a certain level, then it triggers into another part of the building code, which would suggest it's higher than 3 stories or 3.5 stories. So I think that's key. I mean, I know that maybe we've got 5 now, that would be the trigger point, but I just want to be 100% sure that their development is gonna trigger or have the additional numbers to trigger it, or are they within that tolerance of the underwriter's survey? Okay, so there is a key. The other thing that I'm very curious about is, and Chief, it's a question for you, South Stormont, for instance, are they pushing to get a fire truck? Because if I think about the buildings that they have in their municipality, and I'm not trying to say that force them to get a ladder truck, but I got to think they've got more than 5 buildings that are 3 stories high. They've got major plant there. They've got other buildings. They got retirement homes. What's the discussions you've had with your neighboring municipalities on the need to get a ladder truck?
Chief?
From conversations, I don't think anybody else is looking at it right now. As far as like South Stormont, I don't know what they have for buildings. I can only think of 2. I mean, it's surprising, even myself, when I drove around our municipality, how many buildings you drive up to and you go, oh, that is only a 2-story building with a, high-pitched roof or whatever. So I'm not sure I could answer that.
Okay, well, you say, I just think
They
that's
may
part
have-
of the
oh, sorry.
collaboration.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, they may have an advantage being right next to Cornwall, an agreement better than we might
Correct,
have.
yeah,
right?
that's a fair point. So I just think it's all part of that collaboration of, it is an expensive piece of apparatus that hopefully doesn't get used, but it may get used very seldomly. And if we can partner up with a neighboring or a couple neighboring municipalities, I think that's a benefit to everybody. It's gonna be a benefit to everybody's tax base. It's gonna be a benefit to our tax base. And just tying this into DC charges, even if we were charging, $2,500 a door, if you do the math on 200 doors, that's $400,000. That buys you maybe not quite, but that pays for a pretty big chunk. So that's what, again, I don't want to reverse and go back 3 steps on the DC, but that's what I think DC charges are related to, is growth-related items such as a ladder truck, where it is triggered by that development, but it's going to be a benefit to all the other existing not high-rise, but other apartment buildings. And we do have quite a few homes, if you think about Lakeshore Drive, that maybe are not 3-story, but I bet you it'd be a very big benefit to have a ladder truck. So that's where I go with that DC charges. That's where I go with the collaboration of other municipalities. And I'm gonna be honest with you, if you can get that to work, if we could get that to work, then yes, I'm sold on getting a ladder truck. But unless we can't get that fundamentally to work, I'm just not sold yet that I would be in agreement with a ladder truck.
Councilor Smith?
Through you, Mayor Broad, just regarding the ladder truck, if one of the ones that were in the pictures that were on the agenda here, do we currently have a fire station bay or another building here that they will fit into?
Chief?
Yeah, so the only aerial truck that would fit is a single axle 75-foot ladder with no bucket. To be honest, that's all we would need for the long foreseeable future. It could fit in Iroquois, but we would have to take out either the tanker or the pumper, which doesn't make sense, but it would fit in Morrisburg.
So no new building required,
Yeah,
is your question, right?
that was my question. Do we have to add a bay onto
Yeah,
a
extend the bay or
station
something.
somewhere and spend more on adding a bay than we would on the truck that was gonna go out?
Right, yeah, of course.
And another question, this is just gonna go back to the whole DC charge thing again. Could you implement a DC charge if we decide that we were going to do it solely on a specific building or type of building for the sole purpose of purchasing a ladder truck? Like that would be the sole purchase of that DC charge. Can we do that?
Ms. Moore?
Yes, so that's part of the exclusions. We could exclude certain things. And
Well, yeah, so
or
in a- in
or
a-
types
in-
of service.
Right, at a table, we would have ladder truck, and the exclusions for that charge would be anything under so many meters, right? Yes, so 30.5, yeah, very good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, sorry, I just don't, I know that, I think Councillor Ward's the only one who answered the question on the options. I am in agreement with option one. I think we've got enough, information in the original master plan. I think you've gotten enough feedback. I think you've done, and talking with your neighbor and chiefs, they're extremely happy about the collaboration that everybody's initiated, said it's been well overdue. So I think with your expertise, our firefighters' expertise as well, I think we got a number of firefighters on staff that are paid part-time. With the collaboration with the other chiefs, yeah, I think you've got enough there that you could amend a report for us to probably get closer to accepting than the first report for sure. So yeah, I would say option number one.
Option one, option one. Okay, so I think the direction is option one, and I think the three items are, you leave in, but more specific details, more options, more triggers, more facts, more data, and then more opportunities for cost sharing, right? So I think they're in the plan, just not the way they were first presented. How's that sound? So come up with a supplemental agreement. Yeah? That good? Okay, very good. And I will turn things over to the Deputy Mayor for 6C, Iroquois Plaza, Morrisburg Shopping Center.
Okay, well, let's keep on moving. We've made some good progress in the first couple hours, so let's keep the momentum going. So continuation of discussions that we have started and continue on with the Iroquois Plaza and then the Morrisburg Shopping Center follow-up next steps. So I take it that CAO Ben DeHaan is going to champion this discussion.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if it matters if the mayor's mic is still on or not in the grand scheme of audio, visual. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so what I wanted to do with council is kind of move forward based on our last discussion with respect to the Plaza Shopping Centers, kind of follow up and next steps. If we can get a little bit, the hope is that as we walk and talk through this, we have a better understanding of what council's comfortable with us bringing forward to business owners. At this point right now, where we stand, just a quick reminder, council's very much supported the idea that there is an element of cost sharing, but they want to retain ownership of the stuff that we own right now, but looking at ways to share some of those costs associated with the plaza and shopping center, excuse me. So I want to reiterate more than anything during this presentation, we want to make sure we want to engage with business owners. We see that as a primary focus for the foreseeable future as we work through this. we do see once we get some information that is good to, like some additional information where we're really trying to get some tailored feedback to the direction we're taking. Keep it as a targeted engagement, looking at 10 participants plus or minus if council's comfortable with that. Relatively informal. Keep that group size comfortable and productive. And then the other part, which we did have was mentioned at our last meeting, is looking at feedback from residents and non-plaza businesses. So certainly, if there's some vision that council has for that, we'd be happy to get that type of input as well, so that we know how to tailor that type of discussion with those people. Really, I think what was evident after we met with the Iroquois Business District group at their last breakfast meeting was that there's a lot of feedback. Of course, there's some hesitation with new fees, which is reasonable and rightfully so. And ultimately, what kind of the question that if dancing around some of the feedback we got is like, what is that cost going to be? So then that actually kind of turned our minds at a staff level is, okay, how do we arrive at a cost recovery model? And what we're proposing to council, we just wanted to throw this out to council just to see if council is comfortable with us going down this road in terms of an approach. So what we're looking to do is to break out the areas within the plaza and shopping center into zones, and then understand council's view of whose obligation are those zones. So I'll show you 2 quick slides, and again, thanks to our summer student Naomi for helping out prepare something that visually is appealing. But we have a variety of zones. So we have customer parking lots, we have roads that we have in those plazas, storefront parking spaces, sidewalks, canopies, which are the canopies generally speaking are over top of the sidewalks. There's some green space / common visitor areas, some loading areas, waste storage, staff parking areas, and then last but not least, the pylon sign associated with each of those plazas. So same with both of them, we're able to pretty much define the entire area based on those zones. And so what we would love to get some, 100%. Okay. And I will say, like, none of these are like they're subject to discussion and input. I think more than anything, it's the fundamental principle that we're looking for here. But what we, hope to get out of council tonight is just an understanding of where they see those costs, whether they're municipal obligations, joint obligations, or business obligations. And we talked last time about how, there's a concept of the Main Street that has disappeared, and some of those elements associated with Main Street that the municipality should maintain fiscal responsibility for. So really, for us at a staff level, is if we can understand what that looks like, then we can actually move forward with a little bit more of a costing out of what this might look like and provide some input to businesses. Again, I don't see this as an ultimate decision. I see that this is a point of conversation with those businesses. So I guess question number 1 is the customer parking lots. Does council have any view of joint obligation, municipal obligation, or business obligation? And I can go through them all and we can circle back, or it's really up to council how we want to. Are we comfortable?
Mayor Broad's not here, so they're looking at me, I guess, to start off. Okay, so I think I've talked about, it's just my perspective. I think I've talked about this before. I think I talked about when the Seaway went through, Main Street was taken away, and 2 malls were developed. I think with that, there is and there still should be an obligation of the municipality to, first of all, 100% own the infrastructure that was developed at the time of the Seaway. I think there is an obligation for the municipality to continue maintaining a certain portion, owning and operating and maintaining a certain portion of our plazas. And the elements that I believe that we should still maintain, and I'm just doing again a like for like, is a Main Street edge of pavement to edge of pavement was taken away. We have two municipal, correct me if I'm wrong, we have two municipal right-of-ways that run through both malls. I think Iroquois, did they have one as well, Director Jansen? That's a municipal right-of-way. I think that's our responsibility. I think there was probably double sidewalks that potentially were removed or could have been developed at the main street. I think the sidewalk in front of the plazas should be our responsibility. I think that there was going to be on-street, there was on-street and potentially more on-street parking that was probably removed as part of the Seaway. I believe the storefront parking should be our responsibility. For me, I think there's two elements that really it comes down to is the main parking area that you've identified in purple and garbage collection. And I think if we were to go in a direction where we were to ask the businesses to collect funds for the maintenance of the purple areas for winter maintenance and whatever summer maintenance, whatever's done in the summer, I guess line painting and whatnot, I think is an element that we should explore. And I think we should explore whether or not we continue still picking up garbage. Okay? I think in terms of how that is to be broken up, to be quite frank, I was thinking about this, and I don't think just having a frontage, calculating what the frontage is of each building, and or the area of the building is a fair approach. I think it really comes down to planning use. You know, when I think about a grocery store would need more parking area, more parking stalls than probably a takeout pizzeria place or potentially a 2 or 3 chair hair salon. So I think if we were to move forward, from my perspective, if we were going to break down the cost, I think that's what we should be doing is calculating the cost based on a usage, and it's based on a percentage. I wouldn't get fixated if one parking lot right now has 200 parking spots. It's really irrelevant. If in under today's planning zoning, if the grocery store demanded 50 parking spots and a lawyer's office demanded 3 parking spots and a real estate demanded 7 parking spots, you just total them all up and you do a percentage calculation on a percentage basis to calculate what portion of the cost would be allocated to each user. Then I think is a discussion that we can bring back and see what the calculation really looks like. Okay, so that's kind of from my perspective.
So what you're saying is that, so each individual store is going to demand a different level of parking spots. So what happens if the usage type of that store changes from year to year? How, then you have to go back every time that there's say an ownership change or a change of use and recalculate?
Yeah,
for every store?
Yeah, basically that's what you would do. You would just recalculate it based on a new usage. So and really, it may not change that much overall anyways, because again, I think what you're going to find is, I think there was 200 parking spots in Morrisburg that's there, or roughly, where I don't know if I got that, where I got that number from, but if you calculated all the parking spots for every use, it may find out that we needed 500 parking spots. So it's really irrelevant. But yes, it would be a live document, Counselor, and it would be adjusted on an annual basis. It wouldn't maybe come in effect right away, but maybe on an annual basis, it gets reviewed and it gets adjusted accordingly.
The first thing I'm thinking is that just seems like it's a lot of staff time. Well, it's staff time to have to readjust that every time. If we could just keep it simple, just keep it simple. That's all I'm thinking.
Yeah, but I mean, again, Counselor, I mean, the initial spreadsheet, the initial calculation is already there anyway, so it's really just plugging in a new number, and if somebody's sophisticated enough, which I know they are in the Excel world, it would just reproportion the dollar amounts. I mean, you've got to recalculate it anyways, because I'm assuming if we were gonna go to this approach, it would have to be indexed to the actual cost to ensure that the costs are being covered. You just wouldn't say, okay, user A, B, and C, it's $1,500, $1,500, $1,500 for the rest of 20 years, because then it's not covering the true cost, right? So every year you would have to probably recalculate it anyways, because I would think it's just a live document. So it's really wouldn't be, the initial setup is what's gonna take the longest, but afterwards, it wouldn't be a lot of time to adjust, I wouldn't think. Hey, I'm just answering the question.
Yeah, okay, so what you're saying is you could just set up, you could just identify, like, you know, this would be a category 1 business, category 2, category 3, and they could just pluck numbers in and out at the start of every year or something like that.
Ms. Moore?
I'm just looking at the zoning bylaw. Really, the only difference is between a restaurant and an office, professional office, convenience stores. Those are all in the same sort of category of number of parking spaces. So really, if a store is going to a restaurant, it would trigger a building permit. So at that point, that's a change of use.
Okay, okay.
My turn? I have lots of thoughts, I'm just trying to organize them. So, so what you're suggesting, Deputy Mayor, is that I just want to understand, can you go back to the slide with the drawing, please?
Sure.
Thank you. So we would own and maintain the road allowances and the sidewalk. Okay, I agree on those two items with you. Because I agree if we had a natural downtown and it had a downtown core, 100%, we'd be looking after the road, the sidewalk. And also, part of the road would most likely be on-street parking, just like every other, so I agree with the on-street parking as well. Where I struggle is these parking lots. So in your mind, would those businesses buy those parking spaces from how would we download the cost? Would we own the parking lot and then they would pay us a lease? Is that what you're kind of, sorry, I just want to go back to your.
Yeah, so from my perspective, that's exactly it. We still own and we would still maintain the parking lot. So whatever, and we'd have to somehow calculate how much it would cost for snow clearing on an annual basis for the purple areas, which is we'll call it the common parking lot.
Right, yeah.
Okay? So then let's theoretically say it's $75,000. That $75,000 then is levied to the business owners based on the percentage that they would have recognized if they were a new business, standalone, needed a certain amount of parking.
Okay.
Right, which they would have had that cost if it was their standalone business.
Gotcha.
That's what was, you know.
Yeah, okay. So ultimately, township is going to, in this world, we are going to own every single thing in each plaza. Which comes with its own set of challenges. So my next question is, let's say tomorrow one of our big box stores leaves. We are owning and maintaining a piece of infrastructure that's vacant, that won't be used, which is a reality of small town. Like I'm talking about a grocery store decides not to be here anymore. That's a lot of parking spaces for not very many uses in there after that. I guess my fear is I just want to make sure whatever fee we decide on encompasses the asset replacement value, because I don't want to be I won't be here, but 20, 30, 40 years from now, I don't want a council sitting here having this same discussion we're having, saying we don't have enough money in the bank to cover any of this. Like, we tried the BIA model in Morrisburg. That clearly doesn't work. So I just I don't know how we're going to recoup our costs when the BIA model didn't work. That's a business improvement. They were supposed to be grabbing funds from each other to fund joint venture projects, and it didn't work. It wasn't successful. So I think this, in my opinion, cost recovery needs to be a levy. Like, in there, what that number is, I mean, we'll come up with, but I really don't want to revisit the BIA model because it doesn't work here. I just want to make sure we're on the same page there, because I didn't know how, we can talk about costs all day long, but I also want to make sure we understand how we're going to build those out. Like, was that the intention? Was that it was just going to be a levy?
Yeah, we still want to do a little bit of the legal side of it, but that would be, I think, the most direct way to do that, you know, and following all that consultation that takes place, but yes, yeah.
And one other question I have, if I may. Absolutely. Is the liability aspect of this. So we own, we maintain, we operate, yada, yada. I really struggle with the canopy aspect. I really don't want to be responsible for a canopy. They're responsible for their own roof. A canopy is a roof. I really feel strongly that we shouldn't get into the structure aspect of each building. I'd really like to get out of that, specifically for liability. And then the parking, you know, like, if something happens in a parking lot, we're always liable. 1% doesn't really matter. But if there's something that we could, I don't want to, you know what? I'm just done with the canopies. I don't need to go any further. I'm done talking. I don't think I have anything else.
Ben, did you want to recap what they were, when we met with the business group in Iroquois, what they were saying about the canopy and why it became one entity versus owned by several entities?
Yeah, so I guess very quickly, and please fill in anything I might be forgetting, missing. They used to be individually owned. The municipality took them over, and to be able to get funding to do some, you know, as a single entity, to be able to qualify for some funding improvements. But one of the big advantages was to ensure there was like continuity in the look and feel of the canopy. The concern being, you know, Funky Finds. I pray that's not a store that exists, but, you know, Funky Finds doesn't paint it pink and everybody else is a nice uniform blue. So the idea of uniformity and, you know, presenting that uniform look to the canopy. I do want to say, though, that canopy is actually a great example of, and maybe I'll turn it over to my co-presenter here, of an example of where municipality actually levied, it was a levy to be able to fund some improvements.
Yeah, so to add some context there, and mostly compliments to our deputy clerk sitting over there. We sent her on a little wild goose chase of trying to find some information, and she did find through a local improvement levy. Is it levy? Yeah. Technicalities. So the Mooresburg Plaza in 1988, which is before maybe my time as well, didn't have a canopy. So it was actually funded by a donation from the BIA, some apportionment of tax dollars, a local improvement levy, and obviously some provincial funding. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, my apologies, but I think it was a $600,000 project, kind of split 50-50, and that the business owners actually paid for 50% of the canopy. Don't quote me on that, the media in the back there. I can give you the data if you want it. But that was sort of the build at that time.
So moving forward, I don't know. I really don't want to own the canopies, but I also don't know how we would, like, could we not through zoning or something like that make it so that they couldn't change the appearance of the canopy? Like, is there something we could do, like a bylaw or something? Like, I just really don't want the township to be responsible for any structures other than underground infrastructure. I think of like heritage zones, right? Where you live in a subdivision and you have to have like so many trees in your front yard. Your house can't be painted purple because everybody else is. Like, that's
Right.
kind of what I'm thinking.
That would be a covenant
Okay.
that gets registered on title.
Okay.
That is an option. I can say from my experience when I worked at South Stormont that the fact that the entire canopy was able to be redone in Mooresburg and Iroquois we were very jealous. as far as a covenant, it could be something, but then if one changes it, then it would be on the municipality to take the other to court over.
And if I may as well, maybe one of the challenges of the kind of divesting ownership is that if it's, and I think we've got some alignment in terms of the sidewalk, like the sidewalks underneath, so now we're kind of getting into aerial encroachments of private property, potentially over top of municipal infrastructure that we own already, and then when you have that kind of that foundation element to the canopy on private property, I do see some challenges, and I totally respect and can appreciate the position, but I'm not quite sure. Like, the ownership is one thing, the cost liability is I think a whole, like, we can separate those two things, absolutely.
And an additional point to that, like, there are 3 columns to our lovely table that we created. So another option that you could consider is if we're going to keep the asset, we could consider it while we're doing our financial modeling as a joint obligation. So maybe it's a 50-50. Like, let's say the canopy is $100,000 a year, random number, but maybe the municipality is responsible for 80% of that, and the business owners are responsible for 20% of that. So that's where that joint obligation column comes into play too. If there's something that council feels that long term you want to share that responsibility, that's the opportunity to do that as well.
I don't know. I'm leaning towards business on that one. Just on the canopy, like I just feel like if we had a natural downtown core, we wouldn't be paying for people to put up. Like, regardless, we own all of it, right? I guess at the end of the day, we're owning all of it, and it just becomes a business obligation to pay for the maintenance when it needs to be done. Or if we have adequate amount of levy, then we don't even have to go back to them and ask for more money. It should be in the bank. Should be in the bank. I guess one of the bigger questions I have as well, if I can keep, sorry. So this is talking about the future costs. How are we going to recoup the costs we're about to spend? Because are we just basically saying as a council, we're not going to recoup the costs because we didn't do an adequate job of putting money away? So we are going to invest as a tax base into this. And then in the future, moving forward, you will repay us for the next time. So hopefully 20, 30 years from now. Is that what we're essentially doing?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, like that's ultimately a council decision. I think kind of the sentiment that I had felt from the last time we discussed it was the idea is this is the opportunity to reset. Canopy, great example. We fix all those foundations and we fix any columns that we need to fix. Now we're good for 50 years. So we've got 50 years to build up the piggy bank for the next time, and we've done it right because we figured out how we're sharing that and I say sharing, but how we are allocating that cost, because as if council finds a consensus that that's a business obligation, we'll make sure that through our asset management plan, how we fund that. So ultimately up to council, but I'd suggest whatever approach, like if there's an appetite to look at how to recover costs this time around, that we still need to go through this exercise one way or the other.
Okay, I think for me, that's fine if we start refresh and we go forward, because bygones be bygones. Obviously, nobody has that kind of money sitting around. One thing I do want to make mention of as a comment is that we protect whatever money we get. Like, I want to make sure that if it goes to reserve, a council one day can't decide they're going to borrow from that reserve for something else. Like, I'd really like to make sure, like this, we're basically investing in these businesses. I want to make sure that investment stays with those businesses. So I don't want to be borrowing against it. I want to be loaning against, if we're going to invest in this type of infrastructure, let's invest in it. And I guess, I think we're all on the same page how we want to fund it, right, Tom? Yeah. So do you want us to go through the list just so you kind of, do you want to go through the list, I think, one more time?
Yeah, we should. I think we're straightforward to what we want to do, right? I mean, I think everything is a municipal obligation except for the customer parking lot. And what? I'm you two will have to make the decision on that, because I believe the canopy is part of the bill. I think there's a funding reason why we should keep that as one entity. I think I think that it's just too hard with the canopy. I think the canopy should just stay as it is, but ultimately it's,
But it is one funding, right? Because maybe I'm misunderstanding. We own the canopy. End of
Correct.
discussion.
Yes.
So if it's a business obligation, we're just saying the business fully funds that canopy when it's due. So if we were replacing the whole, I think I took us off course there, so I apologize.
you did.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Because what we
So
were just
confused.
talking about at first was not really the capital cost moving
Correct.
forward. We were just
Just talking
talking
about-
about the operation and maintenance costs for now.
Right.
And then we could have a separate discussion on future capital costs. But I think, though, in order to do that, that's really a theoretical number on what we should what we should collect for future capital cost. I mean, there's the true number that we're gonna have on an annual basis, that if we just decide to recover some of that money, that's an easy formula. We've got the math, you got the percentage, the breakdown, you can recover that. On capital, it's a little bit of a different animal, because you'd have to put away a certain percentage, like we're doing with our asset management plan. So if we were to do that, I think, again, I'm saying this is the same light as the DC charges. We are just trying to get the information at this time to see if this fits, what's the right fit, and at the end of the day, yes, staff's putting in quite a bit of time, but at least it's going to get us an answer. We may not do anything, but I think let's figure out the math and the breakdown, because I think that it may scare us and it may not scare us. And I think that's where we're at right now, and I think that's what you're just trying to get at, is what direction, so then you can kind of go and figure out what the percentage breakdown is, figure out based on the last 4 or 5 years of winter maintenance, if you can somehow, determine that on the common, the customer parking lot, as you call it, then we can figure out what the breakdown would be per owner, right? And then we can make a decision. This decision may not be 100% theirs. We may say, you know what, that's too much. We do a little bit of we're still responsible for a percentage, they're responsible for a percentage. But until we get to that point, I think that's where we got to go next steps. Counselor?
Yeah, so if we just decide, just to fill out this chart, if we just say that's parking lot canopies and loading zones, like just pick off those three, then we basically should be able to just go through our asset management plan and say, like, this is how much per year for canopies, and this is how much per year for parking lot, and et cetera, and just to get that initial number, and then to see exactly where we're gonna start from, right? Yeah.
I think you're breaking it down 2 categories. I think it's the operations and then it's the capital. Okay? Then we can decide. Okay? Fair? Okay. And I do like your thought on your let's get together with and I will keep pushing you, Ben. I just feel that we've had initial discussion with Iroquois. I know you've had an initial discussion with 4 or 5 business owners, which is still good in Mooresburg. I think that roundtable meeting after I think you get to this next step is probably a discussion we may want to start engaging again. Because I'm assuming, I got to assume when you have your next Iroquois or upcoming Iroquois meeting, you're going to give them an update, I'm assuming. So now they're going to be 3 steps ahead of what the Mooresburg business is, and it's not a competition. I just want to make sure the same message, and anybody can watch this, but the same message is getting to all of the businesses.
And through you, and absolutely, like the message given to the Iroquois business owners was essentially a summary of this council meeting. What we've shared with Mooresburg businesses that we've spoken with is, the same thing, like based on this direction and this approach. I think that's been very useful, and I feel we've got enough information that we can kind of start the math. So thank you very much for that. One we didn't touch on is pylon signs. I don't know if there's a feeling one way or another, like to, because there's only certain businesses that quite frankly benefit from it. So it seems pretty simple to me that that's a business obligation based on who's benefiting, and then the businesses owners within the respective plazas can sort out between themselves kind of who's on that sign versus who's not on it and what that mechanism looks like. In my professional opinion, that makes it easiest. So the other thing, if I may, council, just a couple more things. One thing we want to do is document current levels of service, because we were just talking about the canopies as an example. Those are something that on an annual basis might not sound like a lot, and it isn't financially, but they do get pressure washed and cleaned, and there's a cost associated with that. So those are we want to document, we collect the leaves X times a year, we do this, we do this, we do this, what those costs look like, so that it breaks down into that table. So that's something else we're working on. We talked about the cost allocation, so we did prepare a little slide to show what that looked like. So I think we've got some good direction. I guess maybe the question is, do we come back here in front of this forum talking about the exact, what those costs look like before we start meeting with, and I'm talking like the in-depth roundtables, come back here, that's the sense I'm getting? Okay, good. And we'll continue to informally engage Morrisburg just to make sure that they're hearing from us as much as Iroquois is hearing from us.
Yeah, like you say, Ben, I think we want to bring Morrisburg up to speed, the businesses to where we're at today, and the decisions we made today. But other than that, I think when it comes to the cost and everything, that's got to come to us, and then we can have a further discussion. Yeah. Councillor?
Yeah, I think the last comment I'll have is you did ask for information on how you should consult other residents and businesses. I do think that maybe that could come after you have kind of this breakdown. I'd like just, even if we just did something online, I think if business owners are paying attention, that's if they care a lot, that they'll give feedback through that forum, and so will residents. I don't think we need to have an open house or something like that. I think that's just kind of, I'm just looking to see where everyone else is with regards to spending this kind of money. That's the only kind of feedback I'm looking for.
One last one, Councillor?
Yeah, sure. Are we still too far away on this to have this done for 2026?
No, I don't think so. To be honest, what we got from council tonight is a huge step for us to be able to actually start crunching numbers. So I think we're in really good shape.
Yeah, just to finish up, and that'll be part of the discussion as well. If we move forward, when do we implement, right? So, okay, good. We'll just might as well move right into bylaws. We'll leave them two in the back. You're the one who suggested it, Clerk LeBron. Yeah, you want to take let's take a 5-minute break. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay.
Okay, welcome back to the Municipality of South Dundas Council meeting for June 23rd, 2025. We'll move to 7A, CAO 2025-06, potential joint water servicing projects, North and South Dundas. Councillor Ward has stepped out, declared pecuniary interest, and we'll go to CEO DeHaan.
Thank you. I can make this one really quick. Essentially, what we're looking for council's support on this evening is North Dundas has approached us and looking to really formally work with us to look at some collaboration opportunities for water supply in North Dundas. They are not nearly as blessed as we are to have such a fantastic water source for their community. They're on groundwater, creating some challenges for them when they look at their long-term growth in the municipality. So what they've done is asked us if we would be interested in collaborating together on identifying like capacity needs, which we're working on already, looking at operational costs, and then how do we potentially work together in the future on servicing water north into North Dundas. So at this point, there's no financial obligation. A lot of the information that North Dundas is looking for us to share with them is stuff that we have either available or soon to be available, just based on the work we're doing already to identify our growth and needs. And then depending on how this progresses, may provide some opportunities for us if we think of servicing north of the 401 and all sorts of great things. So a good news story in my mind, and we just really want to make sure from both sides, both North Dundas and ourselves, that we're, that council's fully committed and on board with this, this exploration.
And before I take comments from the council team, I will have a motion that the committee of the whole hereby rise report resolved back at a regular council meeting at 8:42 p.m. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Very good. Comments and before I get in trouble by the clerk, comments and or questions on the CEO's report with North Dundas, Deputy Mayor?
Through you, Mayor Broad, I mean, if I recall, about 3 years ago, maybe not quite so long ago, when we were sitting in front of the fine people at Matilda talking about trying to get elected, there was a subject that came up, and there was one thing I said that, we should be looking at going to the north, going to the west, going wherever we had to. I mean, obviously, any growth and helping with growth, and I don't know what kind of opportunities we're going to have from here to Winchester to grow as well, but that may give us some potential opportunities to grow as well. I'm 100% for it. I mean, the only thing is we'll have to obviously make sure with all of our future growth, and it's always easy to say we've got all great capacity and we're only at 2/3 capacity and we can go up another. I mean, we just got to make sure that we are not overextending ourselves, that we can sustain our own growth while providing others with water as well.
Very good. Yeah, good. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Very good. So I have a motion that resolve that the Council of South Dundas authorize the clerk and mayor to sign North Dundas bylaw 2025-4 attached to formally initiate collaborative efforts exploring potential joint watering servicing projects. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. (7B) CS 2025-15 cemetery grass cutting. Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and through you, I'm presenting a report tonight regarding cemetery grass cutting services, specifically for Haynesville East Cemetery. Last spring, we were contacted by the cemetery board, and the letter is attached to the report, requesting some financial assistance when it comes to the maintenance of the Haynesville East Cemetery. For a little bit of background information for council, we already maintain 4 cemeteries, the Westland Cemetery, Haynesville West, the United Church Cemetery, and McIntosh Cemetery. As a proposed solution, we're recommending that we take on the grass cutting for the Haynesville East Cemetery for the summer 2025. as a temporary measure, just until council can consider some long-term options. So we do have our first cemetery committee meeting tomorrow night. And one of the main topics of this, or main mandates of the cemetery committee is to help advise council on some maintenance and maintenance costs for municipalities. So the other part of the recommendation that we are proposing tonight is to create a separate GL code to track our current maintenance costs for cemeteries. Right now, they fall under our Parks and Rec budget, any grass cutting that we do. So this is an opportunity for us to clearly separate the costs for the maintenance grass cutting for the cemeteries that we currently maintain, so that around budget time, we'll have a better idea of what our annual, I guess, commitment will be for the maintenance of cemeteries that fall under our responsibility. So right now, we're looking to add an additional $1,300 per cutting season for the eastern part of Haynesville. That's an estimate. It's based on the amount of cuts that we have to do and the cost per cut, which is in your report. But we're looking to get approval for that this evening, so that we can bring a more comprehensive report back to council in the near future for more deliberations.
Thank you, Clerk LeBrun. Questions, comments? Seeing none, have a motion. Let it resolve the council does fund the 2025 maintenance costs for grass cutting for the cemeteries mentioned in this report through the Cemetery Reserve Fund, and that any future grass maintenance costs be allotted through the Cemetery Reserve Fund. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Eight B, 2025-52 CIP Agreement, Walker Climate Care. Clerk LeBrun?
Thank you, Mayor Broad. So the report in front of you tonight, council, is,
Oh, sorry.
oh, we
Sorry.
skipped one.
I did skip one. 2025-54 Subdivision Agreement, Dutch Meadows, Phase 1B. Ms. Warren, sorry about that. Stephanie?
Thank you. So I'm pleased to bring this report to council to consider a bylaw to amend the previous subdivision agreement for Dutch Meadows to include the additional 7 lots that were included to replace the condo block in July of 2024. The amendment adopts and reflects the final design details for stormwater, lot grading and servicing. It provides for the required security, preserving future access for the road allowance on the south side of Rotterdam Way, and revises the repayment schedule for the pumping station to accommodate the developer's actual construction build-out numbers and current market fluctuations. Staff are recommending the execution of this agreement and further direct staff to clear the municipal conditions associated with a draft plan approval for the 7 lots.
Yeah, I just want to be paraphrase or reiterate what you said, that the agreement is to offset the changes of the pumping station costs, right? So if you just say that again, so we're clear on that one.
Yeah, we've revised the repayment schedule jointly in
Yep.
discussions with Mr. Swank to revise the repayment schedule for the pumping station to accommodate the actual construction build-out.
Very good. Okay.
So they're numbers that they've built to date and in the future.
Okay, very good. That's good. Questions, comments, Deputy Mayor?
Just a quick question. Thank you, through you, Mayor Broad, and I believe I know the answer. I just want to confirm, part 11 on that plan, is that for your future utilities?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion. Let it resolve that the Council of South Dundas adopt bylaw 2554 being a bylaw to execute a subdivision agreement with Swank Construction Limited for Dutch Meadows Phase 1B, and that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized and directed to execute the subdivision agreement with Swank Construction Limited as attached as Schedule A, and that the Council of South Dundas authorizes the execution of subdivision agreement and further direct staff to clear the municipal conditions outlined in subdivision agreement application number 01 SDS 2023 red line edit with the counties of SD and G, and that bylaw 2021 be repealed in its entirety. Moved by Councilor Vino, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Now, 8B, 2025-52 CIP agreement with Walker Climate Care. Quick run.
Thank you, Mayor Broad. So this report addresses an ownership transfer situation. So Morrisburg Plumbing and Heating was approved for a CIP agreement in 2004, but Morrisburg Plumbing was recently purchased by Walker Climate Care. So the report in front of you is a revised CIP agreement that reflects the new ownership. The content of the grant that was awarded does not change, just the ownership. This new agreement will reflect the proper ownership.
Very
If
good.
there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Questions, comments? Straightforward. A motion, let it resolve the council of South Dundas adopt bylaw number 2025-52, being a bylaw to enter in a community improvement plan agreement with Walker Climate Control, be read and passed in open council, and that the mayor or clerk be authorized to execute the community improvement plan agreement with Walker Climate Care, and that bylaw number 2024-68 be hereby repealed in its entirety upon passing of this bylaw. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. 8C, 2025-53, stop up and close County Road 16 at Brinston Road. Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad. This is a housekeeping amendment, so to speak, that we're doing. This is a 27-year-old administrative oversight. In 1998, the municipality transferred a portion of the road allowance to a private party through a quick claim deed. But unfortunately, we failed to pass a bylaw to formally stop up and close the road allowance. So we're bringing the stop up and close bylaw forward so that the property owner who purchased the land this year can convert the property from the registry system to the land title system.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, of bylaw, let it resolve that the council of South Dundas adopt bylaw number 2025-53, being a bylaw stop up and close and dispose of part 2 of reference plan 8R3967, being a portion of road allowance previously transferred by the municipality of South Dundas in 1998. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, boards and committees. We'll start with, I know, South Nation, Tom, you had a meeting, I think.
Yeah, so, was a South Nation meeting last week. So, just some of the highlights, there was a, Alice Lunch and Learn, so Alice is alternative land use, program, and they had a, information day at Yolanda Farms, which is on, north of Bowks Hill in South Dundas. It was at the Tunders family, so when they, some of the things they went over there were just, farm stewardship grants and stuff like that, and, how to apply, and just different programs that are available. It was a jointly held by the Raisin River Conservation Authority, South Nation, and as well the St. Lawrence River Institute was there. I stated the last meeting that there was the fish camps, which are being hosted at, there are 6 camps. Right now, I was told that there's 5 of the 6 are full, and they're waitlisting people. So if anybody's interested in any of those, you better get your name on the list right away. They were talking about the wildfires that we have in Canada right now. So Western Canada, of course, as we all know, is very dry. And Eastern Canada is considered normal. So we talked about that. They're going to be doing some work with, in Edwardsburg Cardinal. They've met with their staff regarding erosion control structures at the Spencerville Mill, Cardinal Waterfront, and the canal in Cardinal. And also more farm-related stuff. There's the RALPH program, which is Resilient Agriculture Landscape Program. Just more going over grants and stuff like that for doing buffer strips, tree planting, creating ponds, and cover crop seed for farmers. And again, they were doing starting to use their drone for assessing stand survivability of tree plantings now. So that's one thing that I think they purchased a new camera for the drone, so they can actually go into, say, grass that's maybe a foot long, and they can pick out a new seedling of a tree to do like, so they could do what would normally you'd have to have 2 or 3 people walk, say 10 or 15 acres of a stand to determine like survivability. They can use a drone now and do it in about, say, half an hour. So that's just right, yeah, so.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any questions of South Nation? Very good. Go to SD&G. Deputy Mayor and I were at the meeting on Monday. Just a few highlights. Jamie Pollock was there from MNP. It was a good audit, as he always says, and we were in surplus, so they were transferred to reserves, so everything was in line. Good news on culvert lining tenders. It was under budget, so that was some cost savings we'll see at the counties. The flip side, our insurance was due, and there was an increase, 12%, I believe, which was in line with all the other municipalities at the time. And those were the highlights of we had a closed session that was quite long, but otherwise that was the highlights from SD&G. Anything to add, Deputy? Well, that's pretty much it. Morrisburg Waterfront. Councilor Vino.
Yes, excuse me. So we met, June 17th. The first thing we had was an update from our Earl Baker Park multi-use pad fundraising working group. So we're gonna figure out an acronym for that eventually. So we're looking at our upcoming fundraising events. The 2 that we have forthcoming are the Bolai golf tournaments that will be held the week of 2B weekend. So they just got announced this week, but we are adding Ladies Night Bolai to this, which I think is going to sell out very quickly. I think all the ladies around here are very excited about it, and we plan to do, for anybody who's not familiar with the Bolai tournaments, there was all kinds of games and events and stuff like that. So the funds raised from that night will be going towards our entire fundraising efforts. We had a staff update from the director about our overcrowding control measures that we talked about at the council meeting about how we weren't able to hire, and so we're gonna kind of table that and hopefully go to some parking control measures maybe in the future. We do have Wednesday at 3:30, I believe. Yeah, Wednesday at 3:30 we have our unveiling or our demonstration of the new accessible mat at the Morrisburg Beach with the accessible wheelchair. So Wednesday at 3:30. So we, Community Living will be coming out along with staff and council and some community members who are all part of the project. So we're looking forward to showcasing that. It'll be available for rent at the Lending Library, right, Director? Correct. So yes, we spoke about that. Picnic tables, as most may know, the high school has been building picnic tables for us for most of the year. And it sounds like we're just about to the end. Do we have, did we get it completed? I turn to the director.
Yes, I believe there's 2 more tables sitting at Seaway for us to pick up, but I think the students have completed a total of 10 or 11 tables for us this year. I know that there's some planned social media stuff for it, I believe, tomorrow. So.
With some accessible ones, I believe, too.
Yeah, so we are, with all of our replacements now, we do keep our 1-to-5 ratio, so.
Yeah. So we spoke about that. We also had a delegation from a contractor that we're working with to design some flower beds and some beautification of the Compass area down at the waterfront. And so currently the concept is some shrubbery and some planting and whatnot, but also including 4 memorial benches that will go around the circle. And but we're trying to tie that project in with the forthcoming Cenotaph project, which they have quotes coming in later this year for. They're working on the quotes right now. So we're kind of trying to make those 2 projects work together. Upcoming events, we have our second outdoor movie coming up on July 19th. The beach mat unveiling, as I mentioned, on the 25th, and then our stuff here in the wintertime. So that's where we're at with the, and we had an update about the shoreline planting mowing incident, and everybody's happy that most of them will all grow back because they're
they are perennials.
Perennials.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunate,
but yeah,
contractors.
Mistakes happen.
Contractors, lots of follow-ups and.
Yep, that was it.
Okay. And the library meeting. So I was in Winchester last Thursday. for our regular, our meeting, reviewed the statistics for the year, and we're getting to halfway point. Looks like we're a little bit under budget, so we're going to do an analysis versus our goals and our marketing plan for the year versus our actual results, and tie them together and see where we're at. Can you work on that? We had some other reports. There was an annual OLS board meeting. Just a highlight though is we talked about our every kid get a library card campaign, which was pretty successful, but we want to expand on it. And I brought to the table how myself and many others read at Literacy Day at the Iroquois Public School, and some of the other mayors hadn't heard of Literacy Day. So I'm going to work with Shannon Brand, one of the teachers that helps organize that, and we're going to bring that to the board and hopefully help expand that throughout the school board to get to more some of the mayors involved in reading at the school. So we're kind of tying that together with getting kid library cards and continue to get the libraries active, as it's a safe, great place for kids to hang out. So lots of activity happening at the library board. Any other committees or meetings? I do have a request from the Canada Day Committee for next Tuesday. Pie in the face or pie in the face again? Sign up, we're good with that? Okay, or the eggs if we want to do eggs. I'm good with that either way, so. Pie's sweeter, you're true enough. Okay, I'll make sure I let Krista know that pies in the face are, well, okay, very good. Under consent agenda, A, resolution City of Pickering raising Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support. Resolution Township of Black River request for exemption to proposed mandatory firefighting certification requirements. C, resolution Municipality of Blue Water Northern Health Travel Grant. D, resolution Town of Bracebridge road salt usage. And E, resolution of shareholders of the Rideau St. Lawrence Holdings. So I have a motion that resolved all the items under the general consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. No discussion item, notices of motion. Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So I'll be quick about this. It's not necessarily a notice of motion. It's more just a request to staff to bring a bylaw back to us at the next council meeting, the burn bylaw that council approved in 2024. There's been some incidents in Dundas recently that I think maybe we could just revisit as a council to maybe sharpen our the feedback we've been receiving about it and take a look at it and see if we can make some adjustments based on that incident. That's all.
Very good, thank you. Leave that with the clerk and CAO. Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Okay, we will be moving to closed session, so we'll be ending the recording. After closed session, we'll have the ratification bylaw and adjournment, but I do have two pieces of information to just speak about briefly. We've had 3 significant members of our political history pass recently. If you remember, Cameron Martell had passed in January, but just in the last week, Carlton Mike McGuinness passed away. He was a former Village of Morrisburg councillor and SDG warden. And then yesterday, Guy Lozon passed, and he was our SD and South Glengarry MP from 2004 through 2019. So a lot of us are quite familiar with those 2 gentlemen, including Cameron, so the 3 gentlemen. So our condolences from South Dundas community, and our flags have been lowered to half-mast, and posting at SDG is also, and ourselves are doing posting on those two passings. So I wanted to mention that as a part of our political world. And then on a lighter note, next week it is Canada Day, so let's get out to the Morrisburg Park and celebrate Canada Day, and come and throw a pie in the deputy mayor's face. Or myself, glad to take a pie in the face for a good cause. So I hope to see everybody out and enjoying the warm weather in Canada Day. So with that, we'll end the recording, and good night from South Dundas. Okay, welcome back to the municipality meeting of South Dundas for Monday, June 23rd. We will move to closed session, but first, Councilor Vino.
I have to declare pecuniary interest on the items to be discussed in the closed session.
Very good, thank you. So we'll have a motion to move to closed session at 9:09 PM. Discuss related. Okay, Councilor, yeah, thank you, Councilor Ward, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. To discuss section 239 of the Municipal Act being a proposed pending acquisition of land. All in favor? Carried. We'll pause the recording and return after our closed session. welcome back to municipality of South Dundas. I have a motion, let it resolve the council of South Dundas return to open session at 9:18 PM. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. I have a motion, let it resolve that the council of South Dundas authorize staff to proceed with the sale of Part 1 RP 8R-06006 Haynes Road Extension to the adjacent property owner for the appraised value of $15,000 plus all associated costs incurred for legal fees and advertising costs. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Motion for ratification, be resolved that bylaw 2025-55 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn at 9:19 PM. Councillor Smith and Councillor Ward, all in favor? Carried. And good night from South Dundas.